good morning everybody and welcome to the Operations Monitoring Committee for August 2017. I'd like to welcome the media and the one member of the public that's present. Just a reminder that we are live streaming and it is on, and please turn your mics on. I'm the biggest offender I know, but just try and remember to do that. We'll call for apologies. We've got one from Councillor Maxwell and Mr. Basani Tule, and I've also been advised that Mr. Waru will be as an apology for lateness. Would someone like to move that occur? Councillor Gould, Councillor Hunt, all those in favour please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. I'll ask for any declarations of interest. There appear to be none. I just want to pause here for a moment and just share with my colleagues a trophy that was awarded to us in front of 500 odd delegates from Local Government New Zealand for outstanding value and service delivery for the Rotorua mountain bike strategy. I'd just like to call on Her Worship who received the trophy on our behalf with all the enthusiasm. I mean, I think Councillor Kumar only took 2 steps to get up on the stage. He was so elated, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience to be honoured by everyone who wanted this award. So, Your Worship, would you like to make a comment, please?
Yes, it was wonderful, and every recipient of every section took all their delegates that were there up on the stage, but we thought we had missed out in our section, actually, just as we had the previous year, and then to find that we won the ultimate award was very big for us all and very exciting. And we weren't allowed to make a speech, but I did want to say, because I've watched the response, that I can't thank enough the volunteers and those people that began the mountain bike treks in Rotorua, all voluntary, all ardent supporters of mountain biking. But this was even bigger because it's about our strategy, and it's about the way we're going forward and becoming a cycle destination, but good for our locals as well as our visitors, and it involved the Crankworks event as well. So it was an absolute highlight for us all. And also the judges, this was great scrutiny done of every recipient, and we've gone through that scrutiny, and Local Government New Zealand doesn't give these lightly. So I wanted to congratulate the wider council and the community boards and Te Tato, because really we only began to support what we saw was an emerging opportunity for us as a destination, and also our wonderful environment. So it's great to know that we're strengthening this in our Vision 2030, but phenomenal to receive it, and we were truly shocked. So it was wonderful, and on behalf of you all, it's nice that you've got it there. Thank you for that, Charles, and a thrill that we're now firmly on that stage of Local Government New Zealand for having won the ultimate award 2 years in a row. I think they'll look to us to say, goodness me, what next will come from this innovative approach of this council. So thank you, Charles.
Next year's one at Skate Park, so just put that in your hat. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the privileges I've got as the chairman is to alter the sequence of items on the agenda. And what I'd like to do is I'd like Amy McGregor to come forward and do a project management office presentation before we go into urgent items not on the agenda, because I have already put an item on the urgent list, which is the Matopia Festival, because of the publicity, etc. I think it's important that we have full and frank discussions with some way forward. Certainly staff have been working behind the scenes to bring forward all the relevant information that's been out there in the public. So welcome, Amy. You've been promoted. It's on page... It's just a presentation, so she's got some overheads. Welcome, Amy.
Morena koutou. Yes, so I changed roles earlier in the year. So February this year, switched out of the strategy and policy space into a new space around setting up a project management office for Rotorua Lakes Council and picking up the risk, corporate risk management. Although you do still see me popping in with policy stuff such as PC10 every now and again, which I'm still supporting the organisation on. So I'll just give you a quick overview of what this involves. So it was a presentation that we gave to the Audit and Risk Committee earlier in the year, and there was a suggestion that it would be great to share it with the broader council. Where am I pointing to? Is it not working? Just one moment, technical troubles. Okay, so I'll just take you through today what a PMO is, because acronyms, that are always interesting when people use them and it's not sort of clear exactly what they are. It's working now, is it? Okay. Why we are establishing a project management office and what the RLC project management office will actually do and when will it be operating, so sort of what's the time frame for getting this all up and running. So what is a PMO? A project management office is a team that defines and maintains standards for projects, program and portfolio management within an organisation. So it sort of sets the way in terms of how we do that, sets the processes and looks to build the capability around those areas. They have the objective of supporting successful delivery of projects and programs that are aligned to organisational strategy. So it's all about getting better at doing projects, basically. And the reason people set them up is that they can make quite a big difference in terms of the performance of an organisation. So there's been, it's a widely used, I guess, tool in terms of organisations, both in commercial and in public sector and globally. And research, I guess, shows that a high-performing organisation in terms of project and program performance generally will have losses in terms of budget or outcomes of around 2% of project costs, which is sort of as good as it gets across their whole portfolio of projects. But low maturity organisations are generally, on average, so not just at the extreme end, but on average 14 times worse, so up nearly 30% of project costs potentially wasted when you're at a low maturity. So there's some good opportunities to make improvements, because obviously if we were to be more mature, then we can be more efficient and effective with our spend and get more done as well, is the idea. So PM organisations with project management offices, as long as they're working well, report significantly more projects coming in on time and in budget and meeting the clear business intent. It's not to say that it's a silver bullet, though, that obviously it's quite a lot of change in terms of in the organisation around how we do projects. So it's cultural change as well as making sure we've got the right capability and tools and systems. So why are we creating a project management office? So the CFO last year commissioned a report on our performance in terms of projects. So that was done late 2016, an external review. And while it found that there were some pockets of excellence in the organisation, there were also 8 key challenge areas and opportunities. And I think it's probably to be expected in terms of an organisation that you do have very different capabilities and approaches in sort of different areas. So I guess part of the challenge is we have such a diverse range of projects and we have a large number of projects. We have a lot going on. In terms of having clarity around that alignment of project activity to strategy, in terms of being really clear up front on how that aligns, is an opportunity to do that a bit better. Visibility of projects in the organisation is an area that they saw opportunity for improvement that we'll be focusing on. And internal maturity of project management disciplines, so how we actually manage projects. And as I say, there were some pockets of excellence in some areas that were not as mature as others. Staff project management capability is an area where there is some opportunity to improve, and having those common project policies, frameworks and standards. Connectivity and consistency of priorities. So overall, the report found that there was a good basis to form a project management office and to get on with trying to take some of these opportunities and make some improvements in the organisation's performance. So our purpose is to facilitate and support the coordinated and effective and efficient delivery of projects and programs for council. Significant projects or priority projects are the first priority. We want to focus on where we can make the most impact in terms of, rather than trying to focus on the whole range of projects, which some of them are quite simple and don't need a lot of extra sort of support and approach, through to our more complicated projects, which could do with some more support. And also picked up coordinating and facilitating the risk management and assurance framework at RLC. So we've got 5 main areas or activity areas that we're working on. So one is getting the frameworks up and running in terms of, well, how do we do projects in Rotorua, at Rotorua Lakes Council? What works for us, because every organisation is slightly different and we need to make sure that what we do works well here. How do we build the capability? So whether that's training or mentoring, we've got some staff that are very, very capable, and how do we use them to upskill more junior staff in terms of this area? Providing project support, so I've been providing where I can some support to some of the bigger projects in terms of my background, because I do have a strong project background, and reporting, so we really want to focus a bit on getting clear project reporting in the organisation through the governance groups of projects, but also to the general managers and to the executive, and no doubt that will flow through into this audience as well, and risks in terms of being really proactive about risk identification and reporting and monitoring. Okay, so almost at the year. Our deliverables is really around if the PMO will be successful if RLC is successful in terms of consistently delivering successful projects. So which means that the projects that are either meet or better their project budget and schedule, they either meet or exceed their expected benefits, and those intended outcomes are clearly aligned to strategy. So that's, I guess, the definition of project success. And also that management and governance have confidence in our project and program delivery, and overall we have an enhanced capability and culture around projects and risk. So we've been, as I say, I started this earlier this year. We've been through a phase around a lot of planning and research. So we spoke to nearly a dozen different councils that have project management offices. So it is quite a common phenomenon in local government to get their learnings and make the most of those. A lot of best practice research and a lot of talking internally to our teams about how can we make this work. So we've got a clear plan for delivery, and we're now in that execution phase. So you'll now start to see some of those changes happening in the organisation to support improved project and program delivery. And that's it. Happy to take any questions or feedback.
Sure. Any questions? Your Worship, the Mayor.
Thanks for that, Amy. And does that mean that you coordinate the big moves that we're about to embark on?
Yes, so the big moves are definitely in that top priority project list. So while I won't coordinate them myself, I will be making sure that they've all got appropriate governance structures, that they are all using the appropriate tools and processes, and that they are reporting on a monthly basis into the executive. In some instances I do join some of the steering groups in terms of giving it more of a hands-on support, but I can't spread myself across all of them, I don't think, so I'm sort of trying to provide that guidance and support.
Okay.
Chairman, thank you for your presentation today, Amy. How many projects are you talking about being under control? Is it 10, or are we talking about 100 projects? Or
There's probably in the order of about 100 projects going on at any time in the organisation, but probably about 20 sort of priority projects that we'll be focusing on. But we will make the tools and templates available for all projects and all areas of the organisation that want to use them. But a large number of those 100 are quite simple and don't need a lot of extra sort of framework and process around them, and we don't want to create process for process sake. So definitely the sort of top 20, your big moves, your big projects, and a few other quite large projects that are that aren't on neither of those two categories would be a sort of a core focus, and then there's probably a middle set of projects, and then there's the more simple projects which are less focused.
Question. I take it you'll be regularly reporting back to this committee every month on the state of those particular 20 projects?
We're still working through how that looks. So at the moment, my focus is on making sure we've got clear reporting in those projects, and then up to the executive, and then how do we take that for this forum as well. But we'll definitely look at how do we bring that information in the most suitable way to this forum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Amy, for your report. It astounds me that we've survived this long in a multi-million-dollar business that hasn't had this sort of supervision in the past. Do we normally outsource this facility, or is this just a brand new thing that you've moved in on?
No, so I guess in the past we've relied on individuals' capability in terms of their project skills. We have had some frameworks in place, but they haven't had the resource, sort of dedicated resource to push them and try to, I guess, push for that consistency of use. So it has been more open. So it's not to say that project tools haven't been being used. I guess it's just in terms of the how consistently across and the type of tools and so on, and across the different members of the different teams. I know Una did some work earlier in terms of setting up some frameworks that were available for people to use. And I know the IS team is an area that they have had quite clear sort of frameworks.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Amy. I do see the value of project management and everybody getting upskilled in that area. And I did work for an organisation once where all the senior managers had to get it was actually an offshore accreditation in project management, so I can see the value of it, because it can be costly if not done well. But Amy, it's just around the project management capability and upskilling of managers within the organisation. How do you propose to do that? And I wonder if the 12 councils that you spoke to, have they actually put something concrete in place to lift the skills, the project management skills of the significant people in the organisation who actually, not everybody has project management skills, they have maybe components of, but not all. So what do you actually propose to ensure that actually does happen in the organisation?
Okay, so we have gone out to all of our people that are involved in projects and done a stock take of what level of experience, qualifications and skills are. So we know who our sort of champions are that we can use to try to mentor other people in the organisation, and also a better understanding of what our needs are. But my intention is to develop a training program, and so we have talked to other councils about who are good trainers to use in terms of externally, but bringing them in house so you can get some efficiency in terms of the number of people that you can train and so on. But that will vary. So from a project management perspective, you can train all the way from the executive down to the project administrator in terms of the executive around project sponsorship and what that means to be an excellent project sponsor, through to your project day-to-day coordination. So looking at being clear on what our framework is so that we can merge our framework with project management training, so people are learning about the discipline but in the context of RLC, and doing some probably in-house training. There might be a few that we may put through a formal qualification, but there are a few already in the organisation that have those qualifications.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Amy McGregor, for your presentation. My question is based loosely around what Councillor Bentley had to say. And it's, can you please give us an example, I mean, not necessarily today, but how, as opposed to a project taken prior to this, would enhance against the maturity taken in the future in terms of money saved and progress? Is this core spending going to save us how much money, or how much more is it going to cost us? What are we actually saving? Is there a measure to this, or more revenue spending by the council?
Question goes a lot higher in terms of the executives. I'll ask the Chief Executive Officer if he could comment.
Thank you through the Chair. Look, I think it's also worthwhile providing a little bit broader context. You'll recall that we have made comment on the fact that back in 2013-14 there was a large reduction in our capital spend undertaken. Now that had a corresponding decrease effectively in the breadth and the number of activities and projects that we were undertaking as an organisation. In the annual plan that you have just passed, we now have got a number of big moves and large projects that this organisation is actually looking to complete within this financial year. But more than that, we have got coming up the wastewater treatment plant projects as a good example. So what you are seeing is a change in the breadth of activity that this organisation is actually looking to complete over this year and subsequent years. These are quite big changes that you have signalled in the annual plan. So what Amy is really doing at this point is actually saying, let's make sure as an organisation that we've actually got the robust processes that we need to ensure that we're able to deliver to your expectations completely and on time. And that's what really at the end of the day is actually being looked to. I think Councillor Bentley made the comment, so I think it was phrased as a question, do we currently employ project managers? And yeah, the answer is yes, we do. For example, the library build at the moment is externally project managed, and that's been typically the pattern to date with regards to the way that we've approached project management for the organisation. The thing as a council is that we are a middle-sized council, and councils of this size tend to gravitate to either say we're going to have a project management office, which is not the norm for very big councils, or not. And if the answer is or not, then there's a greater reliance placed on external project management and oversight. And that's where we have been. And the issue that we've now of course got is that with the increase in the number and size of projects that we've actually got in front of us, we really need to lift our capability internally to make sure that we're well placed to deliver on those.
Just one example for you, Councillor Kumar, was the Energy Event Centre, the $28.5 million project, and we had a private company do the project management. RDT did it for us. However, the question that Councillor, through me to you, the oversight role and the reporting back, I think those are issues that are more important to us, because when RDT did the Energy Event Centre, they reported back through, at that stage, the Director of Parks and Reserves, who then brought the reports back to the Parks and Reserves Committee. So I'm just interested in how the report back, because I mean at nearly every meeting we get an urgent item about the city focus or the library or the projects that are coming up, and questions about what's happening with them, like the museum, etc., etc. So if we're going to have at a high level, Mr. CEO, a reporting back mechanism on those 20 that you talked about, the minor ones I think will probably come through the portfolio groups, and the management of those would be at the portfolio level. But I just need to know a little bit more information about it. I think it's a great move. I think it will be a money saver, Councillor Kumar. But also, I think it's just not another level of bureaucracy. That's what I'm afraid of. I want to see that it is practical in terms of reporting back and showing us where we should be heading or we shouldn't be heading in particular projects. So there's a few questions there, Amy.
Okay, thank you very much. I can certainly have a look at some reporting for this forum and work with the executive in terms of what that potentially could look like. I am conscious in terms of there is obviously already reporting of projects coming through the operational areas where they are within those operational areas, so we just have to, as you say, balance that out to make sure that we're not creating another step in the process or any necessary sort of duplication. I think absolutely, this is something that we do need in terms of we have, as you said, in the order of 100 projects. Some of those projects we outsource, some of them we do internally. I think when we outsource projects as well, we lose the benefit of that capability in-house in terms of applying that to our other projects and sort of upskilling our other project managers. So there is some advantage in terms of being able to do that more in-house than paying external. So. And I think very much the PMO is quite it's a risk strategy really around your project delivery. So if you want to try to ensure that you are delivering your projects in budget and not having any overspend, and you are delivering them on time, and that there is a focus around project risk, and that is also part of the visibility and reporting and so on, then this is a very good approach to be able to enable that. And given the extent of our capital spend and the visibility of our projects and so on, I think it's something we really should be pushing.
Thank you for that, Amy. If it creates no surprises policy, I'm all in favour of it, because we should know firsthand if there are any risks or threats to what the projects are that we're doing. So more power to you, and I hope in subsequent meetings we can have an update on where you're heading. Councillor, Mr. Martin, Bob Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, please. Amy, I'm going to put this into the context of sport. And my hearing basically is that you people are going to be the coaching clinic for the sports team, which is the organisation in this council. Is that what you're saying? Because what is concerning me, Mr. Chairman, is that I'm going to assume, and I could be wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong, at the moment the responsibilities of hiring and dismissing staff is with the CEO. Will you people be involved with possibly the vetting of a staff member coming in? Because where I'm coming from, Mr. Chairman, is that we have had in the past some very, very good staff in this council. Their flair has been absolutely a credit to them and made things very, very easy to negotiate from the outside working into council. I don't want to see where we get so PC and we hear staff members say to the outside of us on the outside is that perhaps we need to run this past through the PMO. So I've just been cautious of it. I don't want to cap any of the staff, and I just ask basically, perhaps Mr. Williams can answer this question, Amy, are they involved with the actual employment of the staff members within this council?
Through the chair. Look, I think there's a couple of key points to make, is that project management is not new to this organisation, in that a lot of our staff are employed on the basis of their ability to manage and get things done, which includes project management skills. So that's really a core delivery of many of our staff in this organisation. The key thing that the PMO is doing, though, is actually providing a level of consistency across the processes that are used in the organisation. As an organisation, we are taking on some of these bigger projects, and a good example is that we've probably in the next 2 years have got more than $60 million worth of sewage project in front of us. So as we're taking some of these big projects on, it's important that we've actually really looked at how are we going to manage these projects, what sort of project management methodology actually are we going to employ as an organisation, what sort of reporting do we want from them, and what sort of exposure through to this forum do you need to give visibility about what's happening in the organisation. So if you like, what we're doing is moving from a situation of having some very capable staff running activities to actually saying, and beside them we need to actually provide a framework that ensures consistency and reliability of reporting and knowledge in the organisation, so that you're able to actually easily ascertain where we're up to on all of this work. I've worked in organisations in the past, and Amy knows this is a pet focus for me personally, is that the organisations I've worked in, I've felt that I've spent more time filling out project forms than what I've actually done, what I've put in doing the work. In other words, the project management rigour becomes such that you spend more time managing the project than actually getting the project done. And so I think what we've ended up with, and Amy's been, I think, very, very wise in the way that she's framed the PMO. She's framing it in a way where it's certainly not going to be the project management Gestapo in the organisation. It's actually quite the reverse of that. It's actually providing, if you like, an enabling, supportive environment for our staff where they're able to gain knowledge, they're going to be able to gain standard approaches, they're being able to actually look to Amy for advice. So it's very much a supportive project approach as opposed to a rather approach that is much more constraining into the organisations. That's the nature of it. Will they be involved in the selection of staff? No, they won't be involved in the selection of staff. Stavros will continue to recruit his engineers. Having said that, if Stavros was needing to either recruit or to bring on board an external project manager, I would expect that he would be sitting with Amy and saying, what sort of skills do we need to look for here? How do we induct these people into our methodology? So Amy will be playing a role to that extent, but not being to the point of all staff somehow being selected through the PMO or anything along those lines.
Mr. Williams, I think I've got the gist of where you're coming from. Can I ask how many people will be involved in the PMO? Just the one? Thank you.
So at the moment, so there was already a role in the operations organisation around reporting, so that's sitting within the PMO now, so we've brought that in. And there was a capability role within strategy around projects, so we've brought that into the PMO as well. One of those roles is currently vacant, but we're taking on board the risk as well, so which is quite a big portfolio. I did a bit of a stock take around other councils, and I think Wellington employs 9 people in their risk management area. Most other councils sort of in the order of 2 to 4, and we've got probably a half a person within my team at the moment. So we're doing it lean, and we're doing it. We're trying to deliver a lot with a couple of people basically. I would just like to add that the organisational response has been really positive. I was worried when I started this that I might have people going, "Oh gosh, here she comes. She's going to be wanting me to do this, that, and the other, and so on." But actually, it's been quite embraced by the staff. We've set up a PMO reference group to guide us in terms of making sure that what we do is fit for purpose for this organisation. And a lot of people have been, well, most of them have definitely been very positive in terms of saying, this is great, it's good that we've got this, it will really help me in terms of making sure I'm delivering my projects. So that was really good to hear.
Bishop the Mayor, then Councillor Kent and Councillor Donaldson, then I want to move on, please.
Thank you for that overview, Amy. I can see it's that capability review process that we've been through to get on with the projects and the big moves. The question we should be asking as councillors is, where do we fit in? Because there are many capabilities really amongst ourselves that we liked the portfolio approach. So how do we get the best capability out of councillors to interface with some of the big moves, like we're talking about later in our strategy about the development company? Because that's where, when we add our weight to the project office and the big moves, I can see we can really get the community involved behind our leadership. So how do we interface with the big moves?
Through the chair, I think that's something that we're still yet to really define. my view would be that, and I think looking to Amy as well, that the opportunity here is that all of our major projects will have governance oversight. So all of the projects will obviously come to this table, but below that will actually be a governance group for each of the projects, and there is opportunity obviously for involvement with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Thank you for your presentation, Amy. Like Councillor Bentley, I'm somewhat surprised that an organisation that spends $100 million worth of public funds a year hasn't had this sort of thing before. And hopefully the oversight that you're now giving, particularly in terms of identifying risk and preventing it, can prevent the occurrence of the likes of Metopia.
Wasn't a question, it was more a comment, but just to allay your fears, Councillor Kent, we have had very stringent project management in the past. Councillor Donaldson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I totally support the establishment of the PMO, and I support Councillor Bentley's comment as how we got along without this methodology, this best practice in the past. The Chief Executive raises the forthcoming major projects on sewerage. It's essential we get those right. And I think another big project, and I had a function with some valuers the other night, and one of them talked about their estimation of $60 million project facing us in the restoration of the museum. Now, part of that was recently added is at 15% of code. And so I think that highlights the need for a PMO going forward. So I'm happy to move that we accept the presentation and fully support it.
Karen Hunt.
Thank you. Actually, Amy answered the question of how the staff had responded in the last few months, but my understanding really was that this has been driven out of the reorganisation we did 4 years ago, and it's changed from the silo mentality and the fact that many of our projects, while some of them were extremely well managed, some of them just didn't get done in that time. So we were not spending all the capex that we'd got. My other question really is, are the staff able to understand the linkages between their projects better than they have been in the past?
I think definitely there's a lot more projects I think that are cross departments as well, so that is where the PMO is very helpful in terms of having a common way of managing projects and being really clear in terms of getting the project governance and management set up, so that we're clear in terms of who's responsible and who's accountable. So, and I think with the reporting that we're going to be doing, that part of that will be looking at interdependencies of projects, and I guess there'll be greater visibility in the organisation as well in terms of what the other teams are doing. A couple of the staff have mentioned that, because my intention is to put up in the exec area a whiteboard as well as the reporting with all of the kind of priority projects, and just to have that visibility of what is going on everywhere in the organisation would be very valuable. So that's something that we're working on.
Councillor Tapsell.
Thank you for indulgence, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Amy, for this presentation. It is really good to see what the organisation is doing, and I really must correct fellow councillors. This is nothing new. This is a new way of doing it, and in the past our organisation has managed projects very successfully, and there's a reason why Rotorua is looking and feeling so good. But at present we do have increasing public scrutiny on our spending, which does highlight the need for assurance of value of the public expenditure. So while cost expectations must be managed, the delivery of benefits to our community is also very important. So can you please just assure us that, as well as measuring or the cost and the time of it, you'll also be measuring the quality and the value that it will bring to our community, which is at the end of the day what we're doing this for.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, because a really big part of project management is around, and particularly, in terms of how it's advanced over the years, is around a big focus around the benefits and the importance of clarity in your business case and what you're trying to achieve and what those benefits are, and actually having them measurable so that you can, at the end of the project, understand if you are successful in terms of what you've delivered. So it's not just about doing it on time and in budget, but it's actually about saying that I know why I did it and I know that I am actually achieving those benefits. So in terms of really professional benefit management, it's sort of it grows as the maturity of the organisation grows in terms of how you do that. But I would envisage that we will get to a point where we can actually have quite clear sort of benefit registers and benefit tracking in terms of how our projects are delivering.
Thank you very much, Amy. It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Donaldson, seconder, that the report on the Project Management Office be received. Seconder, Councillor Hunt. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried, and thank you very much, Amy. Right, as I promised you on the agenda, we have an urgent item. Are there any other urgent items? I've got Matopia Festival as one item. Are there any items of urgent business? Oh, Councillor Gould.
Chairman, PC10 decision came out yesterday at the Steamer Hotel, and I think the councillors should have a report today on what the decision is.
Further, Councillor Gould. PC10 is a confidential item that was handled in my previous committee. I'd rather than comment, I don't know where you're heading. I just want to preempt that if you've got any issues regarding PC10, we will bring them up in confidential if you would choose. Councillor Gould.
Second item. The city focus, the report last month was the weather. The situation going around in the CBD at the present time is the weather plus the concrete, and the city focus was reported to be completed in early August, and some of the retailers do not know at this stage how long it's going to take to complete.
Councillor Gould, there is a habit that you are at every meeting bring out operational matters that can be covered in the operation report.
It's not listed in the first part of the report.
But you can raise it with the respective officer who's responsible for that project. So I'll rule that out. That is not an urgent item. Neither is the PC10. That can be covered in confidential should you wish to raise it. Councillor Bentley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I shall also wait till the relevant officer comes on deck.
Bentley, I appreciate it. Right, Matopia Festival. I'd like to move that the item Matopia Festival be dealt at this meeting. The reason why it is not on the agenda is because of comments made in the media over the last 3 days regarding the event require an urgent response, and under Standing Order 7B2, the reason why the discussion of the item cannot be delayed until a subsequent meeting, because the event is due to take place in early December this year, and the festival is well underway in its planning. There have been several items raised in the media regarding this, and I'd like to hand over to Henry, and I'll move that this item be a late item. Seconded. Right. Matopia Festival, I understand you've got a short video to show us, Henry, to set the tone of the meeting. I hope it goes right through the meeting. And also, Stuart, welcome to you both, and all the best. Go for it.
Mr. Chair and Mayor and councillors, and thanks for your indulgence in terms of putting this on the agenda. And look, apologies that the paper you've got in front of you you've only just seen, or it's about to come around, and it's also accompanied by some fairly weighty background reading. So apologies that it's just come now. But yeah, I'll talk you through the paper and then open it up for questions. But just before we start, we will just show a very short video.
Sorry to interrupt you, just to inform my colleagues, the paper's been handing down. After Henry and Stuart's presentation, I'll give you we'll have a 5-minute break so you can read that and take it on board, and then we will proceed with the meeting. 5 minutes. Henry.
So we'll start off with the short video that was actually shown at Boreal Festival just a few weeks ago.
negative and insane. Soak them all up and rinse them away. Let all the colors ignite tonight. Yeah. Let all the colors ignite tonight. Yeah. Let all the colors ignite tonight, tonight. Let all the colors ignite tonight. Yeah.
Henry.
So there was just a little brief intro, I guess, just to remind us of the event we're talking about. And look, I can see some fairly understandable concern among councillors about the volume of material that's in front of them, but it's probably worth just highlighting that for most of you, the material shouldn't be new. It was the feasibility work and the business case that led up to the council decision in 2015.
Correct.
And the paper you've got in front of you is relatively short. So what I thought I'd do is just take you briefly through it, and then, as Mr. Chair said, you can take a short break and then come back for questioning. So really, as the Chairman pointed out, we're here talking about this because there has been a spate of pretty negative publicity of the event over the last few days, and this is just an opportunity, I guess, to remind you of where the event came from, to highlight our view, I guess, that the underlying value proposition of the event hasn't changed, but also equally to highlight that in our view the adverse publicity has certainly increased the risk profile around it and potentially could impact on funding streams. So we thought it was prudent to put that in front of you. So just taking you through the background, really probably the most significant date for Council was the decision back in December 2015, where Council agreed essentially to run and own the Mudtopia Festival, subject at that stage to getting government support and funding. And as part of that decision, Council agreed what was called in the paper to underwrite the event to the tune of up to $500,000. And I think it's probably worth again pointing out that it's not technically an underwrite as such. The Council own and run the event and will cover the deficit that flows from it if there is one. So certainly our view is the underlying value proposition hasn't changed since Council met in 2015. Obviously, central government have got on behind this event through the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, and through their New Zealand Major Events crew. And again, it's worth highlighting that the New Zealand Major Events group has an internationally regarded reputation in terms of hosting or supporting events. They've been involved in a lot of the major events across the country over the last 5 to 10 years, and essentially they're only really interested in supporting events that are basically transformational and that, at their view, have potentially global significance and certainly real significance for the New Zealand economy. So to get their support and their backing throughout this process has been a really big factor. And the other thing that they demand and that we demand of ourselves is extremely robust feasibility work and business cases prepared before they'll jump in and support. So the backing really of New Zealand Major Events has been huge for Rotorua in relation to this event. As I said, look, in our view, the recent negative publicity could well or has changed the risk profile for the event. We certainly believe it has the potential to impact on revenue streams, whether it's trust funding or whether it's ticket sales. To what extent, we don't know, but we thought it was sensible to put in front of you that we believe the risk profile probably has changed as a result of negative and certainly misleading reporting of what's going on. So taking you through really quickly in terms of the processes around some of the key things that have happened to date since the decision. I guess one of the first key decisions was the council appointing a professional events management company to run the event. It was recognised this wasn't something and was of a scale that the council couldn't do internally, so we've appointed an event manager with a pretty impressive track record of managing major events. Also made the decision to appoint an external advisory board who has been providing project oversight, if you like, again over the last year or so. The planning's obviously pretty well advanced. We're 4 or 5 months out now. There's been a considerable amount of money spent already, and you know, I'm imagining a number of you will have seen the advertising has stepped up. Tickets are now on sale. Some of the major acts are being announced: Shapeshifter, Ani Kamoa, Jordan Luck Band, and we're expecting 1 or 2 other fairly significant announcements in the next short period. Look, in terms of the financial scenarios, what we're doing in this paper is essentially setting out 3 scenarios, and again this is based on the advice of the event organiser. We've given you the original business case scenario that was presented to the council in 2015 on the left hand side. We've included what we'll call a realistic forecast, a pessimistic forecast and an optimistic forecast, and again this is based on the advice of the event organiser. And really, particularly in terms of the realistic forecast, and again we are continually reminded that this is still conservative, particularly in terms of revenue from ticket sales, but probably the most significant change is we're highlighting that we think the potential for trust funding may have been considerably reduced. So what we've done in terms of the realistic scenario, given it's uncertain and we simply can't guarantee what effect the publicity's had, we've simply taken that $300,000 figure out of the budget and added it to the realistic scenario. And I guess the thing which I also want to talk about was the event which sparked a lot of the negative publicity, and this was over the what was seen as the signing of an agreement to buy Korean mud, and that's provoked a massive amount of controversy. And look, without pointing the finger at anyone at all, it's kind of the nature of the way reporting works. The information that has come out has been incredibly misleading and incomplete. And I guess taking you back, the reality is the decision to purchase the Korean mud was made, it was foreshadowed in the business case back in the end of 2015 that there were going to be reciprocal arrangements. Halfway through, or in the early part I think of 2016, an agreement was signed with Korea that essentially in return for getting all their IP support, advice over a 5-year period, the council would agree to purchasing some of their cosmetic grade mud for use in the festival and to use to promote in kind of a reciprocal way the 2 festivals. So, you know, over a 5-year period, the cost of the mud, if you like, is about maybe $20,000 per festival, but in effect it is the symbol of paying for the IP, the support, and the advice from the Korean festival, which frankly we couldn't do this event without them. They currently run it as one of the world's largest and most successful summer festivals, and their support has just been huge. And a couple of other things about the mud. Look, I think probably for anyone who first saw the reports had a picture in their mind of a rusty container ship guzzling oil, just bringing in just loads and loads of mud riddled with insects and snakes and diseases and the whole works. And the reality is, look, it is quite different. It is a cosmetic grade mud powder. It's completely heat treated, irradiated. We've been working with the Ministry of Primary Industries for months and months, and on their sort of urging, we imported about 10 kgs of it recently, and I'll pass this around so you can actually see what the mud looks like, so MPI could put it through their systems. They've got no concerns at all with the larger load. Obviously it will still go through their processes, and you know, I think it's probably pretty well recognised that MPI have some of the best border control processes in the world, and they've been partnering with us and working with us over the last several months. So I guess that just gives a little bit of context to where we're at, and I will pass this around along with a certificate of gamma irradiation which comes with it, and you can open this up and have a look at what the product actually is.
Take any questions until I've finished their presentation, to be fair.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to leave it there for now, and open it up for questions.
What I'll do is I'll allow a 5-minute break so you can read the information and refresh your memories regarding the feasibility study. And I must remind, some of you weren't here at the time, but the Mud Festival was unanimously supported, and there was a couple of dissenting voices and a couple of questions raised, and many of us raised them. But at the end of the day, already council, already the government who put their hands up have invested a huge amount of money in this festival. So we'll just take a 5-minute break so you can read particularly the covering report. I hope the media's got a copy of it as well, and so they can see exactly where we're at. And I also hope to take a photograph of the certificates and the cosmetic mud. Have you put some on, Councillor Kumar? Did you put some on? Oh, okay. So we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll be back at past. Meeting is resumed. Thank you for you all taking time to read the attached documents. before I open it up for questions, the first open it up for questions, or Henry, if you'd like, have you got anything further to add before we go to the questions?
The only thing I'd probably add is, again, just reiterating the work that is contained in these documents, and it's reflected to a degree in this short paper, is really the underlying value proposition of the event, and it's very much the twofold nature of it, really. It's the economic benefit, potential economic benefit to NZ Inc., and the documents talk about, you know, potential 5 million economic benefit in year 1 and up to 10 million in year 5. But it's also the broader reputation and the repositioning of Rotorua in the mud, cosmetic, spa, therapeutic world. So very much looking at something which is going to help redefine Rotorua on the visitor map.
Henry, before we go into questions, I was rung by the Rural Community Board, who had considerable concerns regarding the biosecurity situation. You've covered it quite briefly, but Mrs. Trumper, would you like to? I'm going to ask Mrs. Trumper, as chair of the Rural Community Board, who approached me privately. She has some questions which she wants to ask, along with Mr. Martin, because it is their community that some of this misinformation has been flying around about the biosecurity issues. So, Mrs. Trumper, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, you're just going to have to indulge with me for a little while, because I really want to give you a little bit of background. And I'm not sure that off-the-cuff remarks about certification is actually warranted, because it is actually a really serious concern. The Republic of Korea have diseases that we do not have in New Zealand, and nor do we need them. I have spoken with the chief veterinarian at Fonterra about potential risks. She has assured me that there are minimal risks. My point would be there should be absolutely no risk. No one can give me 100% guarantee that this product is safe from either a virus or a disease, which is bacteria, or a spore grown. The problem we've had for our board is that on Thursday last week, I sat here at council meeting and I listened to how it was being publicised, and I went home and I had messages on Facebook regarding the concern from the rural community about the safety, and I had no answer. None of our board had been given any information over the safety precautions of the importation of this product. Now that put us in an untenable position, and I believe that it is actually, look, I'm really cross because I feel that we were supposed to be treated as partners, and I don't think the concern of the rural community has been to the fore. Now, getting to some of the comments that have been made in the media, yes, I approve of some of them. I don't approve of everything, because I'm not a person that gets emotional about an event. I have no problem with actually Mudtopia. I personally don't really have any interest in it, but I have no problem. But what I do have a problem with is the casual attitude that has been expressed to us, to our questions. I spoke with Minister Todd McClay last night over some concerns again, and he has said that there will be heat treated to 78 to 80 degrees. Now, my searching of information about this disease in South Korea is that a recent study that was carried out, a particular serotype of foot and mouth required heat treating of 80 to 100 degrees. Now I have been assured that this will be treated 78 to 80. Now is that acceptable? I don't know. I want assurances. Another point is that we have in the South Island currently Mycoplasma bovis. Now that is a bacteria, and that has come in, yes, it is on a host, and that is through semen or through embryos, and it can survive freezing. Now that is something that MPI are now having to manage, and it is something that should never have been able. Now, my colleagues here have said that MPI have very stringent rules and biosecurity checks that proves that it is easy to be able to come in. That is how we get when you buy your topsoil that is heat treated and screened, and you end up with weeds in your lawn that you didn't put there in your grass seed. That is how we have other things that crop up in this country that is coming from imported products. As a shareholder of Fonterra were also placed in an untenable position over the Sanlu debacle, and that was because biosecurity procedures in the mixing of milk powder and the melamine actually was not monitored to our New Zealand satisfaction. Now I've read the certificate, and it says that, and I know that South Korea have a very stringent practice in place about managing the disease for foot and mouth. I've spent nothing else but in the last 5 days studying about foot and mouth, and I probably know more about it than I ever needed to know in my life. What does concern me though is that the latest outbreak was in February 2017. It can live in the soil from the burial sites for up to 3 years before they lift the carcasses out to break them down. The research carried out in Thailand showed that 400 days after the burial of contaminated carcasses, there was still contaminants in the water. So this is not a flash in the pan. This isn't just a comment for the sake of making a comment. All we are asking for is an absolute guarantee.
I don't think that's fair to ask the staff to give that guarantee. A question in the House yesterday was asked of the Minister of Primary Industries. What guarantees can he give that there will be no more incidences of that disease, that microbovis disease, that the opposition were accusing the government of the MPI not having the right processes in place? And he said no scientist, no minister can give 100% guarantee on anything in terms of microorganisms, varroa mite, the whole lot. He went through the whole thing. So I think, Henry, I would like you to comment, because you are aware of these concerns and what action you've taken to allay some of these fears that are out there in the community. And then I'll get her worship to talk, because she's obviously been talking to people in Parliament as well.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and look, thank you for the comments. And I guess the first thing I want to probably push back a little bit on is I think the suggestion that our response was off the cuff or cavalier is not right at all. This has been a significant issue that was identified right at the start of this process, and we've been working hand in glove with the MPI throughout. And as I think I said, it was actually MPI's suggestion that we import the 10 kilogram thing of mud so they could assess it. They have no concerns. This is a global product that is sold throughout the world. And look, I have to really repeat the comments of the Chair. There isn't 100% as far as I know, but I also know really from my background at DOC particularly that the reputation and the processes of NPI are absolutely world class, and we are guided by them through this process.
Comment from the Chief Executive Officer before I come to the Mayor.
Councillors, just as I want to make two comments first off. The first one is that I'd like to just add to what Henry has said, and that the question that you will be searching for, the answer you'll be searching for, I'm sure in your mind, is that, is this reasonable? Is this a reasonable decision for you to support the importation of this product? Now, I think we're making an error too, I would say, in calling this product mud. It's fundamentally not. You've seen it. It is actually a dried cosmetic powder. Secondly, with the discussion with MPI, it has actually also undergone gamma radiation, which my understanding is the highest level of treatment that you can provide to any imported product. Now, the question for you, and the one that you do need to be satisfied on, is that reasonable and is that adequate? Now, the reason we brought this paper back to you today was not to try, in fact, of giving you certainty or surety that this is a good thing to do, but simply, in fact, to give you the opportunity to re-question your earlier decision to support this festival. Now, we are saying to you today that given the events of the last few days, the financial profile risk of this festival has changed. And so what we're doing through this paper is giving you the opportunity to again question the basis on which the decision making took place, to look at the revised forecast with regards to financial risk, and again satisfy yourselves that you are continuing, or you are able to continue to support this event. So our role today is not to convince you of it, but in fact to provide you with the information to the best of our ability to actually ensure that you are satisfied on all aspects of this festival. If you are fundamentally not, and if you no longer support it, we're also able to give you information as to the implications and costs and so on of actually fundamentally withdrawing from it. So please don't think that our staff are here today to convince you this is a good thing to do. That's not our role. Our role is to simply provide you with the necessary information that you need today to make a decision as to how you wish to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. First here, Her Worship, then Councillor Hunt.
Yes,
I'll take questions.
I think it's, through you, Mr. Chair, I think it's a very good thing that the Rural Board is asking for an assurance from our council officers. I want to assure the chair of the Rural Board that as soon as you phoned me, things got moving. So you were not treated as a lesser partner. That concern was dealt with all diligence, straight through to the Chief Executive, as was my response to Alan Wills, that this was a question that would be asked of staff to seek the assurance of your very concerns. So it was not treated lightly at all. Things got moving when we got that request from you, and I think you put it appropriately, and you didn't grandstand, and misinformation wasn't then promulgated through our community, and I thank you for that, because this is now a very serious decision that we're facing. We're being told here, we're given the assurance as good as we can have, but we're actually being told, if you look at recommendation 2, are we going to continue to support this event? And also the impact of negative publicity. Now, some people would say any publicity is good publicity. I think this has been incredibly damaging in terms of it being seen as a funny thing to present to council. There's nothing funny about this. The presentation that we received, or the the media kerfuffle over the last few days definitely results in a loss of confidence from those external funders. If you look at the business case that we would seek revenue from to help with this event. So it's not just ticket sales. It's not just the support from central government who believes this is something that really fits the proposition of a spa health and wellness destination. This is a proposition that we have said, and we electioneered on, that we should have more events to broaden our tourism calendar, that we needed to broaden the season. I didn't hear one candidate during the campaign say they didn't want more events. Not one. They wanted us to build on that.
I just have to interrupt you, Your Worship. You're actually debating a recommendation that we have actually put. What I'm actually asking at the moment is...
Well, no, I've got a question. I have got a question here.
Could you come to it, please?
Yes, certainly, Mr. Chair. My question is that your estimates are approximately 300,000 impact on the business case that we all approved. How real is that? And what are the costs if we stop this festival today?
And probably the second question first. We've spent, I think, directly spent 460,000 to date, but in terms of the commitments, we're essentially locked into, it adds up to about 900,000. So that, I guess the consequence of withdrawing at this stage would be that 900,000, subject to some negotiation between the 460 and the 900. And in terms of the realistic nature of the forecast, look, in terms of the revenue, potential ticket sales, it's based on the advice of the experts, really, in terms of the event manager. In terms of the trust funding, look, we can't be totally certain. It seems obvious that it could well have an impact, and we thought the safest thing and most conservative thing would be to take it out.
Hunt.
Thank you. Chair, would you prefer just questions at this point? Just questions. Okay. I have two. In light of what Mrs. Trumper has said, have there been any cases of foot and mouth that we're aware of that's been transferred from the festival in Korea for the last 20 years? I haven't. Certainly, I'm not aware of any global things that have negatively impacted on that festival. I'm aware it's been running for 20 years, and it certainly there may well be, and that may be something we could search. The other question is, you said it's sold globally, this product. Is it locally sold in our local Korean shops that we're aware of, or in New Zealand? Because I'm very aware that when, I'm getting a nod from my colleague, Mrs. Rotorua Tate, so it's already in our community, and when Mr. Professor Yong came, we were gifted, some of us, all of us, some mud. We're not sure which bit to put where because we can't read Korean. However, the product is already available in our community, albeit not in the quantities that are being presented here. So I do take with all seriousness those issues that have been raised, but I am heartened with the information I've been presented today, but I would like to speak later to this. That was the question. Is it sold? And it's been answered. And has it been, have there been any foot and mouth cases that we're aware of related to the festival?
And no to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation, Henry. It's probably an enviable job at the moment, given the massive amount of negative publicity that is out there. Now, we're spending $90,000 on approximately 15% of the mud we're going to use on this project, yeah? The other 85%, is that going to be given to us, or do we have to purchase that as well? And if so, how much is the budget for the rest of the mud that we are going to attain for this festival?
Yeah, look, yes, we are purchasing the Rotorua local mud through a reliable and a long-serving producer of Rotorua mud here in the community. And sorry, what was the other question?
How much?
70,000.
Sounds good.
We go to Councillor Kent.
Can I just on the issue of the importation of mud? I think the problem that we've had, and Henry directly spoke to this, is that the purpose of actually importing the cosmetic product was not to have mud at the festival. The purpose of it was to recognise the intellectual property rights of the Korean festival. Now, you might ask, is that unusual? Is it unusual for council to pay hosting rights for an event? And what I would say is that we quite consistently, whether or not it's the Lions Tour or Crankworks, we pay hosting rights. And in all of the events that I've just, or the two events that I've just named, the level of hosting rights that we pay for those events are actually higher than in fact the agreement that we have with Boyang. So this is an agreement around the intellectual property or the hosting rights being able to run this festival. The mud, if you like, or the cosmetic product that we're importing is really a tangible link between the two centres, between Rotorua and Boyang, where the festivals run.
I've noticed that I've been using that mud for years and I've never had a problem with foot and mouth yet, but you never know. I'm being jocular. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I have two questions. You've commented about the misinformation that's out there and the bad publicity, and I would suggest that some of this misinformation is emanating from this council. And I will go so far as to ask you to explain the discrepancies in your own report here. We have been told that $90,000 worth of Korean mud is an expenditure over 5 years. You state in this report that is approximately 3 cubic metres of mud. You have stated publicly today a cost of $20,000 per year for this Korean mud. In this report you state it's very clear approximately $30,000 over the first year for this mud. And then further down the same report again, we're going to be using approximately 2 cubic metres of this mud in the first year. My mathematics says that's $60,000 in year one. Please explain.
Look, and I think, thank you for the question. The response is, look, there are inconsistencies, and I'll take that. But I'll also say part of the inconsistency comes from is because we don't actually know how much we'll use, and it will depend on the number of people who are coming into the festival. It's going to be used in a section of the festival which is the Boryong section. It'll be people there who will be applying it to hands, faces, wherever else you apply it to. And so the volume that will be used will depend on the number of people who come in. Look, I suppose there's a scenario which would, I think, be a really good scenario where we did use 2/3 of it because that's what was demanded. Another scenario could be that it's spread over 5 years. The reality is, through the agreement we've got with them, it's a 5-year agreement to provide mutual support and promotion and advice to each other, and the purchase of the mud covers that period. So I guess if we, as I say, if we use a huge amount more than that, that's probably positive.
To import any mud when we went along to Crankworks to get their intellectual property, but we certainly bought into their expertise in running that major world event. The big thing for me is that the government has come on board in terms of this. They would have known the risks. Surely the MPI in the biosecurity division would have known the linkages, if there were any, between the cosmetic product that's imported into New Zealand already and any bovine diseases that could occur. So, questions? Am I on the right track, Henry? Or have I completely misunderstood it? Okay, thank you. Rob, another question?
Thank you. My second question is, whilst I appreciate that this is part of an agreement in terms of giving them something for their intellectual property, why do we have to import the mud to do that? And my question is, can this Matopia Festival proceed without the importation of Korean mud?
And you could run the festival however you want to, and with whatever products you wanted. I think there's no doubt the festival is really dependent on the support and advice of the Boryong Festival. As I say, as part of this agreement, this mutual agreement, the Rotorua Festival was promoted at the recent festival over in Korea, and with 2 to 3 million people attending the festival, that is huge. But also I think it is worth pointing out that mud, it seems a strange concept to people, but the Boryong mud is kind of world famous as far as muds go, and the promotion of it and the display of it and the use of it will also be a real feature of the festival.
Two questions. One, in your 2015 business plan, you state that the advertisers confirm all sponsors at 6 months out from the festival. We're now 4 months out from the festival, and have you signed up any sponsors? The second question is, you're talking about setting fees for being more favourable for locals. Have you set those particular fees for this mud festival? And the third question is about page 4 of your report. You're talking approximately $30,000 over the first year out of 2.3 million. Is that the cost of the mud for that 30,000, or is that because the government, we've been told to put in 1.5 million, which is 300,000, roughly $300,000 per year?
I'll pass this on to Stuart in a second with regard to the sponsors, but really the 30,000, as I explained to Councillor Kent, look, it's a stab at saying, look, we've got $90,000 worth of mud over the 5 years. I was trying to push it forward and say, okay, optimistically, we might use a third of it, might not. So I grabbed a figure of 30,000. But the point I was really trying to make in terms of the overall cost and the value that sits in behind the mud, 30,000 isn't a huge amount.
It was about the sponsorship. Have you got any sponsors signed up, or have we lost sponsors, or have you anticipate to get less sponsors?
Firstly, yes, we do have sponsors on board. So we already have Hong Kong Airlines on board that actually sponsored some of the recent travel. Where they're also proposing that they will have Matopia promoted on the back of all their boarding passes, and that couldn't happen without a relationship with the Boryong Mud Festival. We do have some beverage companies signed up, but I don't have the details of those today.
Fees haven't been set yet, am I correct with that?
The entry prices have been set, and Rotorua residents have been promised a 20% discount. That's promoted on the radio now, I think.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you so much, Henry and Stuart, for your reports. My question, which I'll get to, is if you open Facebook at the moment, you know, someone said, I might get into mud, $18 a kg. Let me know if you're interested. My question is, why are we becoming the joke across New Zealand, Great Britain, and to locals? Everyone's pointing a finger at us. Is it because we're using public money on mud or dry cosmetic powder? I see now that the health and safety issue has been addressed. We are still being ridiculed on the street regarding this issue, that we are all pigs in mud. Who's responsible to address this collapse issue? The mud is a problem. How do we fix this disaster that's sticking to all of us like mud? All the councillors, excuse the pun, all the councillors are being blamed. do we individually go and defend ourselves, or the council's full of?
That's a question. I don't think you should answer that, Henry, because that's a political issue. Maybe I'll push it on to the CEO. Would you? We've got to have it. I think he raises a legitimate question. We've got to have a strategy. If the risks have been abated, we've got assurances from the government, MPI, the risk is minimal. It's up to us to politically make a decision whether we walk away or we get in behind it 100%. Councillor Kuma?
Thank you. So I'll rephrase that. Should we have had a PR team that would have addressed this to the public in a better way, that these things would not have arisen, or when it did arise, handled appropriately?
Yeah, through the chair, I think ultimately today what you need to look at is the value proposition for this event. And in my view, as staff are making the recommendation to you, they're highlighting the return to New Zealand Inc. of $10 million in the last year and potentially $5 million in the first year. That's the business case. That's the business case that has been studied and scrutinised by central government. And on the basis of central government scrutiny, they made an investment into this event of $1.5 million. So the scrutiny that they looked at was saying, what is the potential return to New Zealand of this event occurring? What you need to do today is to actually satisfy yourselves that that value case is still there and is still attractive. That's the first thing. If you believe that that value case is there, that is the reason why you would actually support and continue with this event, quite fundamentally. Ultimately, the success in the event is just that, a successful event. The success of that event means visitation, it means increased spending on Rotorua, it means increased visitation to Rotorua, it means an increased international profile for this tourism destination. That was the reason why this event was actually put forward to you in the first place. So ultimately, whilst the publicity has been negative, it has certainly been pointed, it has actually been only about a very small aspect of what is a very broad decision around a festival. It is the importation of a cosmetic product which is in lieu of the intellectual property rights that we receive as a result. And that's the question that you also have to ask. Is that reasonable? Now I would say, as Henry has said, the intellectual property rights for these sort of events are significant. For example, the hosting rights, I believe that we had for the Lions Tour was some $200,000. That was a one-off event for Rotorua. This is a 5-year event, and you've seen the return based on that, and you should ask the question, is that a reasonable return for Rotorua for this importation? Now, I can't answer those questions. That's the questions that you'll need to answer today. But in answering those questions, what you're actually therefore developing is a view and a response to the sort of allegations that have been levelled to you outside this organisation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just further from my question earlier on, that 70,000 figure that you came up for purchasing local mud, is that in the first year or is that spread over the 5 years? As first part of the question.
That's over the first year.
So we're talking 350,000 over the 5-year period.
So we're talking, trying to think now, about 15 tonnes of local mud will be used in year 1.
Thank you very much. And just through you, Chair, I'm extremely disappointed at how this was put into the media, and that I think it should have been handled and could have been handled a hang of a lot better. And the way that the media has been presented with this is that is seen to be a council decision, whereas I believe it to be an individual decision rather than council as such, because had it come to me, I certainly wouldn't have signed off on purchasing mud from overseas.
Individual decision in terms of what are you talking about?
I never made a decision to buy mud from Korea. I don't know how many others around this table were.
Yep.
And then, mate.
No, but we appointed a advisory board to provide the governance procedures to get on and provide the event. Government bought into it, and these people have made the decision that to buy into the intellectual property of Boyang. I believe this is a token approach. Otherwise, you'd have to pay a huge amount of money for rights to conduct an event of this magnitude. I mean, just reading through, just refreshing myself in terms of the feasibility study and the business case, and a mountain of work has gone into it, and all we're doing is focusing on $70,000. I have to agree with you, Councillor Bentley. The PR in this matter has been appalling, but hey, I don't think that lies at this table. I think this lies, you know, do we spend a whole lot of money investigating how it got out and all this sort of thing? I mean, that's irrelevant. I'm here, either we back it or we pull. And on the information I've heard today, and I want to hear your debate in terms of motions. Have you got anything further before we do that to Henry? Have you and Stuart got anything further to say? I'm more concerned about the risks to this council financially if a move goes that we get out of the festival.
Yep. No, nothing more except, I guess, to reiterate in terms of the reputational issue runs two ways. The reputational issue that we've probably suffered over the last few days, but the reputational issue of being a flaky partner is another thing to think about, and I guess also the financial implications in terms of the money that's been spent to date and the money that's committed, totalling up to probably 900,000.
Okay, thank you very much, Henry. So that we've got something to talk at, would someone like to move recommendation 1 that the report Mudtopia update be received?
Thank you.
All right. This is a procedural motion, receiving the report, not endorsing it, receiving the report. It's been moved and seconded. Yep. Oh, we've already passed that. Okay, thank you. Recommendation 2, would someone like to move?
I'd like to move that.
Councillor Hunt.
Thank you.
You'll get your opportunity to make an amendment. I know how to chair a meeting. Councillor Hunt, seconded. And you're moving what, Councillor Hunt? Could you read it, please?
I'm moving recommendation 2 that the committee confirm its support for the Mudtopia event.
Full stop.
Noting A, that the value proposition described in the feasibility work and business case still hold, and B, noting the risk profile has increased with recent negative media coverage and that this has the potential to impact on the bottom line, and I'd like to speak to that.
Mr Chair, in seconding and with Councillor Hunt's indulgence, can I add a point 3 to the recommendation?
No, well, wait. I haven't even received the motion yet. It's been moved, Councillor Hunt, seconded Councillor Donaldson. It's now open for debate and amendment if so fit. Councillor Kent had his hand up first. I'll come to you second, Councillor
I would like
Donaldson.
to speak to that first, Chair.
Councillor Hunt, you're right,
motion.
and you have the right to reply as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Hunt.
Now, some people wish to see our community stagnate and turn into a retirement village, and that's unfortunate. Now, we've got a history here of central government supporting major transformational tourism events and industry. The bathhouse was probably one of the first. The New Zealand Māori Crafts Institute was probably the second one, now Te Puia. And now we have central government recognising that we are the major tourist mecca in the country. And this couldn't be a better fit. There's no one else that could claim this festival. And yet we have people in the community, individuals and groups, who no doubt when those other things, the bathhouse and Te Puia, were suggested, also lobbied with misinformation and mischief to stop those events going on. And I think that's tragic, actually. This event is going to go on. Some people want to discredit this council any way they can. And for me, those who throw mud effectively
Martin?
As far as I'm aware, there has been no one discredit this council. There has been a suggestion that the mud being imported is actually the question today.
I don't believe...
Not discreditation of this council. That's far, far, far from the point.
Under standing orders, it's not a point of order. It's a debating issue. You're debating...
And I am addressing the negative media coverage that is noted in point 2B.
Yeah. Carry on, Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. Now, some people are trying to discredit this event, and they're trying to discredit this council. And this kind of nonsense has gone on for a very long time.
Since
and I,
last
for one,
October.
am a little sick of it. Now, in my experience, those who throw mud are very much the ones that end up with most of it on them. So I hope that the mud sticks where it belongs, actually, and it doesn't certainly belong here. This is a cosmetic product. We are going to have the festival of our lives. I don't think people really understand how magnificent this mud festival is going to be. I don't know anybody who is active who doesn't like getting out and getting muddy or having a fun event. This is something totally new to our community, and the bringing in and the support we're getting from Korea and Boryong and their mud, this is a premium global product. This is going to not only bring in New Zealanders but also our Asian community. Hong Kong Airlines supporting us. This is big. This is big. Let's move on from this pettiness. Yes, the risk profile has increased, but I'm hoping that as councillors we'll really get behind this, and I'm hoping our community will really get behind and back this festival. The issues that have been raised by the rural community are real, and I hope that they have been handled, and I believe they have been handled and answered in a way, not the 100% surely that you would hope for, but in a way that our government and MPI and all the stringent criteria that's gone through will give some measure of security to the rural community. But that's an individual choice for them. I, for one, fully support this, and I hope my colleagues do support it going ahead.
Thank you. Kent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wish to move an amendment. I wish to add a point C, that the importation of Korean mud be cancelled, and I'll speak to that once it's been seconded. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unlike most around this table, I've had a family go through foot and mouth. I've seen what can actually happen when every farm around you and your entire livelihood is destroyed because of an organism that is very, very difficult to control. I am not going to be held liable for that possibility. We've already heard some questions raised by Shirley as to whether the treatment is going to be sufficient. And I have to say one simple thing. Any risk to our agricultural economy is not worth a mud festival. However, we can go on and hold the mud festival perfectly without that importation of Korean mud and remove that risk. It would also have increased the credibility of this council. I, like Peter Bentley, would never have approved the importation of Korean mud. It would have been laughed at round this table if we'd actually got a chance to debate it. But councillors here were not even remotely included in such a decision. Yes, we supported Motopia Festival, but there was no indication that we were going to be importing mud from overseas. So I say this, are you prepared to stand the risk of destroying potentially our agricultural economy if it's wrong? Because I'm not.
Voting the amendment, which is that the importation of the Korean mud be cancelled. Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I would vote against the amendment. The mud is here already and has been for some time. I think this would cause irreparable damage to the relationship with Boreong and the future of the festival, and there would be significant financial and reputational risk to the event and to this council. So I'll be voting against the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I also will be voting against the amendment. And perhaps just a little correction to an earlier statement of yours. It didn't go through unanimously. I was actually the only councillor that voted against it. And while I held those views then, with the information that we were given, after the many extensive reports and many extensive assurances we've had from not only our council staff, but our government, I am happy to fully back the Mudtopia now. So I find it quite humorous that councillors who before fully backed it are now turning around and discussing whether we should not do it at all because of $90,000. We've been told by our chief executive and by staff that $950 has already been spent, with $900,000 already locked in. So you're telling me that we are going to lose between $500,000 to $1 million because of $90,000 of cosmetic high-grade mud? It doesn't make any sense. So with my views, and I think that's a strong point to say, as I previously did not support this, but now with everything that we have and many more exciting announcements to make about this festival, I strongly support it. And may I remind everyone that there are two different groups of people in this community. There's the small minority that is not supporting this because they have been misled, misinformed and deceived by a media, and another small group that is just out there to destroy anything good that happens in Rotorua. And there is another group in this community that are absolutely excited to see us go on not only the New Zealand stage again, but the world stage. It's not mud. It is actually geothermal mud. And there's a clear difference between that. It's what we've always been known for and what has brought tourists here for the last 200 years. And I'm more than delighted to see this in what could be a fantastic 5-year event that is not for profit. And we're forgetting that. It is not for profit, and any proceeds that go from this event are going to be reinvested. So for the $5 million that we're going to get from our community, sure, spend $90,000. It'll be worth it in the end. Thank you.
I certainly won't be supporting that amendment at all. And as a councillor that signed the partnership agreement in 2016 and also supported, bar one councillor at the time, that we proceed with this mud festival, I'm actually a little bit embarrassed that we've got to this point today. I think the most mature aspect that's been put forward was that of the rural community seeking assurance, because it just raises your due diligence awareness that have the right steps been done, and it's a good thing to counter-check that. I also want to say that there's behind this the potential for this to be a major commercial event for Rotorua. There wasn't anyone in Rotorua that didn't support bring on more events and festivals. Nobody. And I'm now seeing, and I'm really thrilled to have the support of central government. That wasn't easily earned. And I want to congratulate Todd McClay and also Simon Bridges yesterday in the House for supporting the confidence to continue with this event, because this is an iconic New Zealand event, not one for Rotorua alone. It's an iconic event that fits our proposition of who we are as a spa, health and wellness destination with experiential tourism. And this is a wonderful event. It's a cultural event as well. And when I saw it in Boreang, one of the most amazing aspects of it was the Te Arawa cultural performance. And the Korean and the wider public that were there, up to 200,000 people at an event every year for 20 years, they loved the cultural component. And that's an aspect that I'm sure Korea is going to also bring to our mud festival. It would be a diplomatic embarrassment if we actually said we don't like this mud, we don't want it as part of our festival, so we're going to vote against it. I'm not prepared to bring that opprobrium on this council when we are a mature, iconic tourism destination, supporting something that is fantastic. I have been out and about too at many events since the media kerfuffle over this. And actually people want justification, they do, about the council spend. Once they hear the real story, they say, well, this is quite exciting. So I'm not getting that negative impact that was hoped for by a small group that thought they would bring a great political coup against this council decision. We've got to be confident, we've got to be brave, we've got to do the next big thing for our destination. This is it. I'm really looking forward to it. I don't think I will frolic in the mud, whether it's Korean or Rotorua mud, but I'll certainly be enjoying the health aspect and the wellness aspect and the beauty aspects of this product. This is a different product. The Boreong mud has quite different properties to our Rotorua mud. And there's another player in the international market, which is Iceland, that has their own mud. And I think that's something that we could grow over this event over 10 years. This has commercial opportunities for Rotorua. It has huge potential for tourism, and it has potential for trade. And I'm not going to undermine that. I am pleased to have had the assurance from staff about the biosecurity concerns that were raised very maturely, thank you Shirley, through to this council. I will not be supporting that amendment.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask a question first, Mr. Chairman. Who applied for the import licence to bring the mud in?
Have you any idea of this, or has this been organised by the advisory board?
Look, I presume it's been by the festival organisers, which falls under our umbrella. So whether it's in the name of the council or the festival or the event organiser, I'm not sure.
Mr. Martin?
Mr. Chairman, the debate that we're having around the table at the moment actually belongs to the importer, because whoever brings this particular dust into our region is basically going to be responsible for it if there's an outcome. Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to brief the council a little bit what happened out at Rewhakaitu back in the 70s. If you just may allow me to say this, please. There were some sheep were imported from overseas, and they were quarantined, possibly that they may have had scabies. They did, the whole lot was destroyed. So we're not unfamiliar of what can take place with foreign diseases coming into Rotorua. In my stage, I was just at the stage of starting to farm. I'd come back from Massey University, and we had an embargo put over the top of us that we could not ship out any stock, because the stock trucks that were involved had actually moved these sheep over the period of time until at that stage, if I remember right, it was MEF. So I know how it feels, and I missed some of my payments because of what happened, because I couldn't get my fat lambs to the works. That's beside the point. What really concerns me, and I listen to you people in here today talking about how well you're going to do for Rotorua and how you're going to increase the viability of Rotorua through tourism. Congratulations, I totally agree with you, because I want to be on that boat too. That's why we're standing. But at the moment, it's not about Rotorua. It's about the welfare and the possible financial gain or non-gain for the primary industry of New Zealand. When you made your decision in here, councillors, back in 2015, to talk about the geothermal mud, and I heard someone say it's geothermal mud, so I'll use the geothermal. If you decided to go ahead with that in 2015, you did not know in 2017 in February in Korea that there'd be an outbreak of foot and mouth. And that's what has happened. So that's why I'm standing here today, and I'm bloody nervous about the situation, not only for myself, not only for New Zealand, but this council as well. I'm basically praying that if the motion goes, or this motion is lost, that we go through this process with the Mud Festival, we use the Korean mud and nothing comes about of it. Because if it does, all hell's going to break loose. Because there's been no other organisation that I'm aware of that's imported anything from a foot and mouth destination that's had a foot and mouth, such as Korea. There's been embargoes put over us all the way through. So if you're talking about wasting 900,000, and those figures that, Mr. Chairman, I believe are subject, if we make the wrong decision, it's going to cost us a hell of a lot more. So I hope we've got a very good insurance. But I go back to my question, and you haven't been able to answer that question: who has the license to import? And if that can be answered, perhaps this council will not be null and void of any responsibility. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. I'm going to vote for the amendment, Mr. Chairman. I will vote no because of my rural constituents.
Okay, Henry, could I just ask you a question? The point that Mr. Martin raised, the mud is already in New Zealand.
Not the 5 tons.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, we've bought in 10 kilograms, which is about 10 of those boxes. No, so, and there's no obligation to bring in 5 tons at once. So no, the major shipment hasn't come.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kumar.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think some of us have got a bit too emotional this morning, and probably not heard that no one is saying that we don't want Mudtopia. No one is saying no to the festival. What is simply being asked is about the Korean $90,000 spend, which is a legitimate question. The other question that I raised was about the public relations disaster. I did never say that I'm not interested in this. I was never around when the decision was made. I'm a newbie. I support the festival. I support anything that is good for Rotorua Inc. That's why we're sitting down over here, to grow Rotorua. Festivals, we can't put our money to it. We can't untimely say that this is what it's worth, but we can forecast that it's going to be worth one thing. So let's not get too carried away by making any slanders over here that other people that are not supporting it are anti-Rotorua. We're all sitting in this table around here and we are all for Rotorua. Some just have a different point of view at this time with regards to the mud. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, having another point of view can actually be quite negative. I don't think we need an external bad public relations, because we're doing a pretty good job sitting around the table, some people sitting around the table this morning, over-exaggerating the point. The rural community, and thank you, Shirley, but the rural community themselves don't have a monopoly on the concern for what's been raised in terms of biosecurity. We're all concerned, but I don't want to think that we're going to sit here and think we're going to bring down the whole primary industry in this country by importing mud from Korea. I'm going to be supporting recommendation 2 and A and B. I mean, it's clear that if we can hold a Mud Utopia festival halfway as good as what they hold in Korea, we'll have a successful, amazing event here in Rotorua that I hope will go on for quite a number of years. I'm really interested in the cosmetic mud, actually, and hopefully what I will see in that interactive play at Mud Utopia, because we do have businesses in Rotorua that actually they soak people in the mud, in the cosmetic mud, for medicinal purposes and also for cosmetic purposes. And I actually want to see what the potential might be downstream for our businesses, or to look at that, because we do know that people, particularly I have to say a lot of visitors to New Zealand, they're very interested in health, they're very interested in making sure that they age with grace, they age with everything all working very well, and we hope to see in the future some industries growing in that area as well. So I think it does have potential, and I just think this morning we've had some concerns raised that I think are way off the coming from left field, and really have no point here, no room here at the table for the discussion this morning. So I won't be voting for the amendment, but I certainly will be voting for A and B as it states up there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I too, like Councillor Kumar, I believe we need to take the emotion out of this. The rural board, as Her Worship said, had every right to raise the biosecurity issues directly with myself and with the Mayor, and those were not taken lightly. They were acted on immediately. Councillor Tapsell and I met with staff yesterday regarding, that's why this is an issue here being debated as well. So you had every right, but let's deal in the facts. The biosecurity risks are minimal. MPI have given assurances, they can't guarantee things 100%, they've been given assurances that the proper procedures will be taken. The current product is available for sale in New Zealand now, and has been imported for some time from a foot and mouth country, and I agree with Councillor Martin that normally when that occurs, a blockade occurs with regard to any imports from those particular countries that have that infestation. I have no read from MPI. I mean, MPI, if they felt the risk was high, they would tell us what to do. They would block any importation anyway. So I think we need to deal in facts. I supported the business case. I supported the creation of an advisory board to get on and do the job and create the event. When government recognised that it's stacked up, they put their investment in it as well. What I'm really excited about is there's a real cultural aspect to this. With the convergence of tangata whenua in New Zealand who've used mud for years, and a South Korean cultural community that have, I see opportunities for joint ventures, new exports. I mean, the gambit is just wide. I mean, look what happened to the biking community in Rotorua since Crankworks. Unbelievable. We've got more bike shops than anywhere else in New Zealand. So I will not be supporting the motion, because MPI would have stepped in if there was any risk. Can't guarantee 100%, but if there was a major risk regarding this, where it came out this morning, and I didn't know this, that it's already been used, it's already been imported, it's already gone through the scrutiny, we've got the certificate. I just put some on my skin, and I thought I might have got some cultures or something, but I haven't. That aside, this is a very serious matter. The 90,000, yes, that could have been handled better. Let's get real, it could have been. But in terms of the advisory committee, they thought they were doing the best interests of this event and this community, and I support them in that, so I will not be supporting the amendment. Councillor Gould, and then I'll put the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No, Councillor Kent, I'll give you a right to reply. Councillor Gould.
What the people of Rotorua have jumped up and down about is the $90,000 purchase for the Korean mud. But they don't realise, as of this morning, that this council is going to have to spend $900,000 if this event does not take place. But as a Rural Board councillor appointee to the Rural Board, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to support the motion because of the biosecurity risk. And it was brought up yesterday at a meeting at another place in town, the risk of another infestation of a bug which is going to decimate the crops around New Zealand. And this is, to me, is that we can't afford to take that particular risk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We need clarity here. We need clarity because we've got a very cloudy issue. And the cloudy issue is the fact that it's been tried to state around this table that the issue is whether we should or should not go forward with Metopia. That's not the question. I don't think there's a single person around this table who would, if you put those two things that are up there now separately, I don't think there's a single person around this table that will vote against item 2 as it currently stands. However, there are two aspects which are up for debate around this table. They both relate to the importation of Korean mud, which has not yet been imported. We've just clarified, only a test sample has been brought in. So it can be cancelled. We have also heard that the festival can go ahead without the importation of that mud. So let's cloud the issue and say that we're cancelling Matopia if we don't have Korean mud, because that is untruthful. The second issue with respect to the Korean mud is the stupidity of spending $90,000 of public funds on mud. And it is a stupid decision.
Order. I would like...
Mr.
Point of order, please. I would like the councillor to retract that. That is a subjective comment about a management issue. There is a
point of order, Mr. Chairman. That is not a point of order.
I would like him to retract those comments, because that is a personal attack on the people who made that decision.
Kent, you can respond.
It is my personal view, which I am as entitled to state round this council table as you, Councillor Hunt, but it is a view which is also shared by the vast majority of the public that are out there who have made an absolute laughing stock of this council over this decision.
In terms of whether he wants to withdraw it or not, it's up to him whether he withdraws it or not. So it's in your court, Councillor Kent.
Thank you. I won't withdraw it because it's my personal view, and as I say, it's a view that's shared by the majority of the public that's out there. This is responsible expenditure of public funds, whether they're coming from the government or whether they're coming from the council, or whether the left hand's paying for it or the right hand's paying for it. It's all public funds that the public are having to pay for. I seriously think that we could put that $90,000 to much better use promoting the Matopia Festival in all sorts of other ways other than just having some Korean mud there. So I urge you to support 2, A and B, because I, like everyone else around this table, want the Matopia Festival to proceed. But I want to stop here and now the ongoing furore which the importation of Korean mud will continue to raise in the press, and the discredit that will continue to happen to this council, and the possible biosecurity ramifications if they've got it wrong. Thank you.
Before I pass the motion, I need to clarify something with you, Henry. Is the festival at risk if both from holding it and from a financial point of view, if the Korean mud component isn't included in the festival?
Look, I think there are probably a couple of things worth clarifying here, and I think Councillor Kim, when I responded to you about really whether you could hold Matopia without Korean mud, look, I imagine so. The issue though that sits in behind it is that we have a partnership agreement, a relationship, a commitment we've made with Boreong in terms of their support, their advice, their IP, their promotion, and the whole works in terms of the partnership. In return for that partnership, there was a commitment to purchase some of their mud powder. So on its face, I'd say this would end the partnership, or certainly put the partnership in serious jeopardy. So it would be Mudtopia without the support of potentially the I guess the masters of the event from Korea. So we have an agreement with them. We have an MOU that we signed. On its face, yeah, that would come apart. Whether it could be rebuilt, I don't know.
Thank you, Henry. It was my question. All right, I'll put the amendment that the importation of the this Korean mud be cancelled. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? No. It's lost. Division. All those in favour, raise their right hand. Bentley, Gould, Martin, Kent. Those against the motion, please raise their right hand. Tapsall, Rakawa, Tate, Stanton, Waru, Hunt, Donaldson, Chadwick and Sturt. The motion is lost. Councillor Donaldson. The amendment is lost, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd like to speak to the substantive motion, and also, as I previously signalled, at a point 3. Mr. Chairman, in 2015 I went to a conference on behalf of Her Worship at which Lord Sebastian Coe spoke, and I've just gone to my notes on the app. The key point he wanted to make as the chair of the organising committee for the 2000 Olympics in London was that for an event to succeed in a city, it has to be strategically aligned to that city. And if you get it right, the multiplier between public and private investment is profound. So we have Destination Rotorua's visitor perception dashboard. The latest one indicates that the key perception of Rotorua from domestic and international visitors, 65% identify Rotorua with geothermal. So it's that key strength that this event is going to highlight. And if those of us who are lucky enough to be at the LGNZ conference heard the same sort of comment from the Lord Mayor of Melbourne and the staff from the management of a TEED in Auckland. I've had over 30 years experience in event management, and a highlight for me was the Mountain Bike World Champs in 2006, supported by this council, supported by RECT, but owned by Bike New Zealand. They owned the company Mountain Bike Worlds 2006 Limited, of which I was a director. In 2004, as part of the promotion for that event, which we'd secured, a team of us from Rotorua went to Leger in France, and we took Rotorua geothermal mud and handed it out. The French riders stuck it on the tyres of their mountain bikes because they thought it's what they'd be riding in, and they wanted to see if it would stick, which we all thought was hilarious. But other members of their community and other international guests there got the message that Rotorua was a home of geothermal mud. Running events is high risk and it's hard work, and I think the negative publicity around this has added to our risk profile around this issue. Another thing that we had to do as part of running the Mountain Bike Worlds 2006 Limited was obtain an export licence to export human urine to Australia, athletes' urine for testing. These things happen as part of the running of events. The actions of the Taxpayers Union and the Daily Post with their orchestrated stunt could undermine corporate and charitable funding support for this event, and that's a real concern. And we now have the information that we're potentially facing under the new risk profile a $250,000 loss. I've had two businessmen in this town who are very supportive of events. We're closely related to international mountain biking events here, make negative comments because of what they have heard in the media over this or since this stunt. The irony is that one of these parties on their website proclaim, and this is the Taxpayers Union, we stand for value for money from government spending. Well, I think they've put that in jeopardy here. And our own Minister of Trade would not be endangering any trade relationships by supporting the event as well. The further irony is that NZME, who owns the Daily Post, who helped orchestrate that stunt, were contracted or are contracted to run our famously refreshed marketing campaign. So look, this is a real concern for me. I mean, the risk matrix for Crankworks is about 6 pages of reading, and we identify risks to funding as a key issue. So I'd like to add a point 3 to the resolution, that staff investigate legal remedies to address any loss of sponsorship revenue arising as a result of the actions of the Taxpayers Union. I've got it written down here and I'll pass it, but I'll read it again, that staff investigate legal remedies to address the loss of sponsorship revenue arising as a result of the actions of the Taxpayers Union in respect of this importation of Korean mud. As part of any event supported by MB, you are required to obtain a survey from consultants and report back on your performance against KPIs. And I would like the survey to look into the impact of this this stunt and this negative publicity and what it has had on the revenue for the event, so that we have a very good evidence base when we report back to MB. So those are my thoughts. I'll leave it there, but I'll be supporting 2A, B and 3. It's part 3. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I don't think I'm going to support that. I wonder what value we will get from that. We need to concentrate on concentrate our efforts on the event and what we need to do to make sure it's successful. And I don't think we should be buying in, really. I mean, to somebody else's agenda, really. And let's just concentrate on making it successful. There may be or there may be not be ramifications in terms of revenue lost or otherwise, and I just think let's get on with the job and make sure it's successful. I want to also add, if I may, Mr. Chairman, in the last few days I've heard, well, last week actually, I've heard 2 people speaking on this issue on the council's behalf. They shouldn't go anywhere near a microphone. I'm not referring to your worship, who knows the value of sound bites and who can speak up a storm around, a Rotorua. And, we really need to make sure that those who speak on behalf of council and put a council view actually are familiar with speaking, in public and also in sometimes a quite stressful situation. But I just don't think this is really going to add value, and we need to focus on what we have to do. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been enough of a public relations disaster already to go ahead with what's just been moved there by Councillor Donaldson and yourself would be to compound the issue. I will not be supporting it.
Well, I think that even putting the resolution up there raises our concerns that now we've opened the door to further risk for this festival. And, I think you're absolutely right, Councillor Rotorua. I think that whole prank is not worthy of us bothering about. I had to take offensive remarks that I refused to come down. I don't hide. I was up in my office meeting the Indian community. That had far more importance for me than going down to receive what is really a stunt. I want to get on with the high-level issues that this council is facing. I think the debate around this morning has been very good tenor, actually, and good concerns raised, but I wouldn't support this. I find it quite difficult, though, next week I head to Dunedin to lobby for some funding. And it's embarrassing to know that we have to take this sort of raru with us to go and ask for funding from external funders. So I want to focus on the high level. I want this event to be successful. I want the public to support the event. I want the international community and the rest of New Zealand to support the event, and that's where I want this debate to end today. And so I won't be supporting that amendment, but I think it was good to put it, because we've got to be aware that what we thought would be difficult to cut even in the first year, and in Boreang they said it took them 3 years until they started to see that they were cutting even. Now they're doing it, they've done it for 20 years and they're saying we've got to refresh the whole festival. So for what was a challenge anyway in our first year, I think that amendment says that we're now up against it even further because of misinformation promulgated in our community. Let's focus on the high level, making this a success, getting behind it, and enjoying the event. It's only 4 months away.
Yes, Mr. Chair. With your indulgence, I'll withdraw the part 3. I think I'll take some advice from Councillor Kumar, and my head of steam will get down a bit, but I remain very angry and irate by that stunt. I've restrained myself long enough. I've had my say, and I'll withdraw the amendment.
I don't think nothing can be gained by buying into their negativity, and let's move on. So we go back to the main motion now, that the committee confirms its support for the Matopia event. A, noting the value proposition described in the feasibility work, a business case still holds, and B, noting that the risk profile has increased with recent negative coverage, and this has had the potential to impact on the bottom line in the first year. Do I have a mover for that? We've got a mover? Councillor Hunt and Councillor Donaldson. See, any further debate? I think it's pretty straightforward. Oh, Councillor Gould, another gem.
I'm going to be supporting this particular part because at the stake is ratepayers' money of $900,000, and as a council we can't be forward of wasting ratepayers' money, so I'd rather that the proposal goes ahead, that we be very careful about the event. We know that there is a biosecurity risk. We've been told today it's minimum, so I just hope that it is going to be a very successful event in December.
I think, I'll be supporting the motion as well, but I think the risk is way higher than 900,000 because you're talking about 5 years. If we were to walk away today, the collateral damage would be absolutely mammoth. So I will be supporting, and I implore my colleagues to too. Councillor Hunt.
To finish off as mover of this, experts in their field have supported this. It's been through rigorous testing. It's supported by central government. It's supported by our local MPs. It's supported by Ministry of Primary Industries. We've got major event project management on board with this. This is really going to set us on the map, and I think it's been a really healthy discussion and debate to have today, and we've raised issues that have been of considerable concern, but they have already been worked through by those experts in their field, and I think that we as a community can be heartened by that. I tried to see a date stamp on there, but I can't, so I'm pretty sure it wasn't just produced yesterday. I look forward to this event, and I look forward to our community supporting this, and I also look forward to the media supporting this event, and I hope to see those ticket sales start taking off, because I'm certainly buying them for my family for Christmas. Thank you.
Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Now move to page 7. The minutes of the Operations and Monitoring Committee. Now, as chair of the committee, and certainly Councillor Tapsell and I, as chair and deputy chair of the meeting, we saw a comment, I think it was in the media, that over 80% of this meeting was going to be held in confidential. There's one item on operational minutes from the 6th of July and a report on the EPA, so I can't understand who's been feeding that. More misinformation, Councillor Kent. Right.
Mr. Chairman, I think it just reflects the written agenda as opposed to the agenda we've actually had.
Right. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. On page 12, The operational report for June to July. I've got to go to my notes. Hang on. First one up is Kaitiaki Māori with Monty Morrison on page 13. Thank you, Councillor Gould. Seconded, Mr. Waru. Mr. Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Morning, everybody. I'll take my report as read, but I just want to highlight a couple of things and some changes since I wrote this nearly 4 weeks ago. But we get continuing compliments around still the British Lions visit, and more particularly around the world record attempt for the haka. In fact, I think what's been reported internationally is the real delight and pleasure that the overseas visitors were able to be embraced. The other one is the change, the marae noho. There's the date change, and councillors might want to put it on their radar. The date listed in there is 15th and 16th of August. It's the 22nd and 23rd, so it's a week later. Apologies for that.
Can you tell me what marae noho is?
Yes, that's the marae noho. That staff have 24 hours, a bit more than that, on the marae for a bicultural development treaty of Waitangi.
Councillors are welcome, aren't they?
Yes, Councillor Gould attended the last one, so councillors are more than welcome.
Good.
And the other part was that, of course, the day that we had at Waititi Marae for Wale Haumaha, and Chairman, yourself, you were a speaker at the marae, and there were many other councillors who visited there. A great occasion really for Te Arawa and for the community to be together. So those are my highlights. I'm happy to answer any queries.
Your worship.
Any questions for you, Monty, but there's been a couple of very positive events since you wrote this report. I attended Matariki X in the weekend, which was a group of entrepreneurs that met with some phenomenal speakers, and the talent in our community with Māori business and where they're moving commercially is mind-blowing, really. So a wonderful event that we didn't host, but we opened, and congratulations. And we had groups there like Base Camp talking about our IT strategy and where that fits in, and that's supported by council, so you have to be proud. The other was the phenomenal response, so a good week with the commitment to our bilingual proposal, and that has been overwhelming. I don't just look at social media, but it's been even better received than I ever imagined, and that's wonderful. And then another congratulations actually that Monty wouldn't say, but one of our Te Tato board members has been appointed as the cultural advisor to Toi Oho Mai, and that's Anna Morrison, and we extend our congratulations to her. I do want to just say there that in the past that was an element that we were very concerned about with the Institute of Technology, and I do know with Anna's leadership in there now, it bodes very well for us in the future. So our congratulations go to, I think she's your daughter, but some very, very positive initiatives that, you know, probably lost their way a bit last week with other stories. So wonderful for Rotorua and Te Arawa.
Gould?
Also,
Councillor Gould.
Yeah, thank you very much, Monty, for your report. Also on the New Zealand Herald website, there was a local Kapahaka group which won a national award with a prize put up by Rotorua Toyota, and they actually won a car, and they had about 100 competitors from groups around New Zealand competing, and Rotorua Toyota have praised the local group as being superb in the competition.
Monty?
No, I don't, but it's not that doesn't surprise me. Obviously, we have a long history of Kapahaka, but more particularly, that highlights, in fact, there are now 3 groups performing right now internationally. one in Washington.
Yes, I saw that on
Rotorua,
Facebook.
With Tapuia, and of course there's another group currently with actually Councillor Maxwell is in Rotorua.
Mr. Waru.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. Kia ora no tātou. Te kauni hira tautoko i tō tātou reo rangatira. Kia ora. I just want to komi again ngā mihi, so yeah, kai te mihi tonu. But I wanted to go back to the Lions and the New Zealand Māori All Blacks kaupapa. I don't know if are you aware if there's been any economic impact report from that event, or is this not quite? You're not the right person to ask, Onkomot.
No, I'm not really the right person to ask, but I can tell you as part of the team that actually was working with New Zealand Māori All Black management, I know that they're doing a full impact report in and around how they could leverage off the event.
Ka pai, thank you, because I've never seen their place pumping so much. That's why I asked.
Thank you, Mr. Waru. Okay, thank you, Monty. Governance and Strategy Group, which is the Honourable John Paul Gaston. Kia ora, Mr. Gaston.
It's just good morning, councillors. just good morning, councillors. Just as far as the information I've presented across pages 13, 14 and 15, just a couple of points to raise there. We're starting to get obviously in the busy phase for planning for this coming LTP. So I think there's a number of workshops that have been scheduled. I think they kick off on the 10th after the SPNF committee. So just starting to look then about what are the key issues we need to look at. And then council is also starting to pick up on some key workshops. Obviously today we start with conversation around the spatial plan. And then of course we also start moving into things like, do we need to look at the options and alternatives, and what are we trying to achieve from a development company? So those sort of decisions are quite imperative before we proceed, and that's one of those big move projects to look at. Councillors, the other thing that's not included in here, and I just signal it now and I'll have to talk to the chair of SPNF about whether it's appropriate or not, is whether we just take the air quality bylaw deliberations out as an extraordinary meeting, and probably looking to have it again on the day we've got signalled here for the development company workshop, which is the 23rd. So obviously we've got some timing issues around that, councillors, that we need to get it done before the end of this month when the bylaw expires. But with the regional council needing to come back with that social impact report, we thought it was probably appropriate to take it out of a normal agenda, and so we just spend some time looking at that air quality bylaw by itself. So that's probably the only signal I'd like to make, Mr. Chair, and happy to answer off any other questions.
Councillor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do I bring up about the city focus in this part of the report or the transport part of the report?
Welcome to bring it up now.
Certainly now would be fine.
Mr. Gould.
Councillors.
The city focus, a number of retailers are concerned that the length of delay it's taking for the upgrade of the city focus. They do not know when it's going to be completed. We've been told in the reports that the issue was delayed because of the weather, and they've also been told in the report the issue was delayed because of a lot of concrete. To me, personally, a project manager should be able to work out how many fine days he needs to complete the project, and it should come back to council saying it's going to take 20 working days or 30 working days for it to be completed. Now, the city focus at the present time looks a shambles. To me, it looks like it's going to take at least 1 to 2 months to complete, and it's a case now of telling the public of Rotorua when it's going to be completed, and also the retailers which have been affected for the past 2.5 months.
Mr. Gaston, I'm sure there's a question in there for you.
Yes, councillors. What we've had, and the councillor was right to pick at the point that it does look and it has looked a mess, but it is a construction site. So as part of the construction of Manawa, they've had to lift out a significant amount of concrete, which was under the road and obviously held up the pillars. So all that work is now being complete. And if you've been watching the progress, it is moving now with the good weather quite rapidly. So there has been a delay, obviously, and it was quite a significant impact around the weather. So we're now looking at it being completed in the first week of September. So that is now the projected time for completion of Manawa. But councillors, I think it's really important to again identify the caveat that if we have very bad weather, it may possibly delay it still further. But at this stage, we're looking for the first week of September. I think I said the first week of September.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Given that it's the work that's done in the city focus is outside, we do expect the weather to play a certain part. And given that I was involved in doing the original focus, I made sure that everyone that would listen knew there was a significant amount of concrete that would have to be shaved, and which has been the case, but it is no longer acceptable to be used as an excuse for any delay. What does concern me is the cost to the businesses that are associated with that area, and do you think as council we should show them a little bit of an olive branch by giving them some rates relief or some other financial recompense for the losses they have undertaken of late?
Councillor, it's a challenging discussion, because if you start saying we can't actually undertake the works and the public spaces that we need to undertake, we expose ourselves to a huge amount of cost and implications. I think there's also the burden of proof that needs to be established with that discussion. So I think the important thing is if there is businesses who feel they have concerns over the impact, they probably need to come in and talk to the staff and talk to us directly.
Can you attach a name to that so that I can pass it back on to them?
Certainly, myself.
Yeah, just the part of, through you, Mr. Chair, the part of Councillor Gore's question regarding communication with the businesses, I take it, JP, that there is ongoing updating of the businesses and they're not left in the dark about progress on the project?
Yeah, my understanding is and I've reconfirmed that, councillors, is that our project managers are meant to be providing updates to the retailers in that vicinity. Again, they've been sort of caught as well, where we say, yes, it's moving, it's going to move again, and then we get the next roll through of some severe weather and they're not able to get onto site. So again, we'll be advising them of this first week of September intent at this stage, with all factors being positive and particularly around the weather. So that's the intention, and unless there's any unforeseen problems.
A lot of providers and really good souls are asking me for assistance about the homeless, and I'm referring them all to Rosemary Viscovich at this stage, rather than agreeing to meet them all individually. I think they're all offering different solutions. Is that the right process for everybody at the council table to undertake?
Yes, Your Worship, it is, and Rosemary's in contact with a number of providers and government departments who are taking action at the moment, and it's probably very important for those who have the desire to help that they are aware of whether they actually will be duplicating something that's already started or underway. So Rosemary's the right person to speak to initially, and she'd be putting them through to any other agencies that are currently working, particularly the government ones.
Piece of paper from the council to the particular retailers around that particular area would be appreciated.
Rather than saying it here, maybe you could chat to JP and give him the actual details. Councillor Hunt?
Thank you. I actually visited City Focus yesterday, walked around the whole, all 4 squares of it, and certainly comments from some retailers is they're pleased that some of the netting cloth has dropped, either inadvertently with the wind or on purpose, because it's creating quite a lot of visual impact. The gardens are starting to go in, the boxing for the roading is going in, the shared space is starting to be created, and in the last 2 weeks I'm aware of a barista training operation that is set up in Hinimoa at the far end. A noodle and dumpling, which was in today's Daily Post, is setting up in Hinimoa Street. That's a new business come to town. The vegetarian cafe, which is set up in Tutanakai Street, that opened last month, and there's another IT shop that's opened in Hinimoa Street. Now, this is 4 new businesses that I'm aware of, and there may well be more, that have opened in that space during this construction site. It is winter, and we've had a lot of rain. So this is a tough period for retailers at any time of the year, and has no doubt been made tougher by this development. They have known this is coming, and they've all done as much as they can to continue their businesses, and it's very heartening for me to see that new businesses are moving into this space. So I look forward, as everyone does, to the completion of this, and we have been further delayed with the weather, but I am confident that they're doing it as quickly as they can, and I recommend you all pop round there and walk around the barriers and have a look, because it's really starting to take shape.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just bring it up at this stage because it's on the back of Mayor Chadwick's comment. Just drawing the attention, and is there an explanation from council staff as to why the number of new building consents is 10% lower this year than last year when we have a major housing crisis? That is alarm bells to me.
Through Mr. Chair, I think this is actually a question that Henry will need to deal with, and when he picks up this part of it. But building consents are obviously there's the section sales, and then people choosing what time and when to build. So he may be able to elaborate further on that.
I understand through you, JP, to Councillor Ken, there are a number of proposals that will come to council in terms of the special housing policy that this government has just recently announced. I understand Her Worship the Mayor is also working with, and I know some of those groups have been in to see staff. So I think there's going to be a huge splurge coming up in the next 6 months, Councillor Ken. So do I. Welcome, CFO and business support on page 17 through to 18.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I'm just going to bring up just a brief presentation just to show some of the work that's being done on some of our facilities, and then just answer any other questions. So while Hilda brings that up, I'm aware that obviously there was a question asked around our FTE numbers. So for those that councillors that were interested, councils currently has 327 FTEs employed. There are a further 9 that have been offered jobs and waiting for them to start, so that's 336. Infracore has approximately 145, Red has 42 at the moment. The airport I haven't been able to get a hold of, but I think from memory in the line of about 15 to 20. For those that are interested in that. With regards to some of the work that's taking place in the property section, so many of you will be aware that we are in the process of refurbishing the Civic Centre. So those that haven't been downstairs recently, we're in the process of creating hoardings and closing off 2 rather large components of the downstairs as we refit those areas. And there's just some photos there with regards to obviously the carpets that have been removed, the all the furniture has been removed. The electricians are now busy pulling the light fittings off, and the tiles will come down, and then there's some more demolition, and then the builders will start that work. And there's about up to 12 months worth of work as we refit the current empty periods, finish them, and then there are the area where the consenting and the compliance team sits. They'll move into those new areas, and then that area will, where they currently reside, will be refit as well. So you're probably wondering, where have those staff gone? Well, those staff have been relocated into our sports drome. So in the sports drome, they used to actually have an old conference area, and what we've done there is that conference area actually needed a bit of a tidy up anyway with regards to that whole facility. And so we have revamped the old conference room, and that's that photo on the left. And then the photo on the right, you'll see the outside of the sports drome as well as getting some attention. And so what we've been looking at the sports drome is it's actually a very interesting facility. It's one of our highest use facilities probably on a daily basis. So I'm not a basketball player, but I was quite surprised with regards to the huge numbers of participants in that area. And I thank Monty for dragging me down one day to have a look. But what we did notice was that the facility that was roughly built 60 years ago was probably typical of some of the things that have happened over the years, and has not had the level of attention that it has needed. And in particular, when it sits next to our EEC, and when you compare the two, it was probably close to a state of disrepair. And so we are in the process of, as you can see, we've tidied up one element of it, and we are now in the process of continuing on with that. So the roof has been fixed. The outside, which was the old 60s, 70s brick, or maybe earlier, is getting fixed and plastered. Features of it were now going to be blended in to look like the EEC, so it's just going to be one continuous feel of the program. And obviously the purpose of it is not to make it look like the EEC. The purpose of the work is to actually bring it to the level that our community expects, particularly for such a high value and use asset. The focus at the moment in that building, and I can't show you those photos, but those that are aware of the sports drome, there are two changing sheds that are underneath one of the stands, and they were actually had to be closed because of hydrogen sulfide issues. You actually went in there and you started to gag. So the builders are really stuck into that at the moment, with a view of obviously that they will reopen shortly. The cause of the problem was actually the plumbing that had pretty much dissolved underneath of it, and the hydrogen sulfide was coming up through the plumbing and the floor. So that's been resolved. They'll get a nice tidy up, and then the front and the reception area are getting a modernising as well. And for those that know the building well, when you walk into the sports drome, obviously the basketball courts themselves are a fantastic facility, but the toilets in front of you are, I think Chadwick said it and I won't repeat it, and so they'll be quite modernised and brought up to the level that they expect as well. And obviously basketball Rotorua are pretty excited about it and are looking forward to it. The work is scheduled to be completed by the end of October. So furthermore, so the site earthquake strengthening has progressed well. So just a couple of photos there. So they're in the process now of relining the internals, with a view of moving the operations into that area, I think closer to November, possibly December. So I think the move might be probably a month after the library opening, at which point, once the eyesight moves across into that new space, the space that they currently reside will also get a tidy up as well, and in particular the toilet and the amenities there will get a major refresh. The Library Health Hub, there's just some photos there again. JP's probably more in line with giving you up to date, but that is progressing well, and I'll repeat because I'll get asked, and it is on budget. So, and there was meant to be some photos of the propping of the Sir Howard Morrison Performing Arts Centre. So as you know, we did close the facility temporarily for a period of 2 weeks. The propping there was very successful. It is hidden, so you can't see it, so the intention was to show. So, oh, there it is. Sorry, the thing just froze. So this is the sort of propping that took place. So when the engineers got in there, they actually had to change the propping plan. The very pleasing thing is, and that's the photo on the right, is we removed a section of the wall to expose what was underneath. The pleasing aspect was of what we found underneath was a lot better than what actually was expected. So as a result, the engineers believe that it is much stronger than it was first anticipated, which was, as I said, that was originally thought. So again, though, by propping it, it has strengthened it even further. The final assessment of that facility has had a slight delay because of just working with Heritage New Zealand around the invasive testing that's required and the planning around that. That has now been approved, and whereas we'd hoped to get that report to you next month, that is now looking like October as a result of those delays. But that project as well is progressing quite well. So other than that, the rest of the report I'll take as read, and any questions.
Thank you, Thomas. Thomas, just ETA for the opening of the Library and Child Health Hub, is that 12 months away, or is that 18 months?
Look, my understanding it's November. JP's...
November, excellent.
25th of November, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the Library Health Hub, would it be better spending time getting that building finished and then disregarding the Jean Batten grounds, and you can easily close off part of the Jean Batten grounds, or finish it after the Library Health Hub is opened up?
We're definitely focusing on finishing the Library Councillor, and both the Library and Jean Batten Park will be completed at that time, as indicated. What you will notice, though, is that the eyesight will still be partially fenced off, and that will follow the month later with regards to its opening. The eyesight was delayed, as just so you were aware, because we did find asbestos in the flooring that was not known to be there, and so that did delay the project a little bit as that was dealt with.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, Thomas, can you just clarify for me when the financial reports to the end of June will be finalised, please?
So that's progressing at the moment. The intention is to take a draft to the Audit and Risk Committee at either at August or in early September with regards to those provisional results. So just to put it into perspective, Audit New Zealand is turning up next month, and that's when the full nitty-gritty of it commences. And once they've done their obviously thorough review, that is when we'll make the draft results available, subject to a council decision later in October.
And then we produce our annual, is that when we produce the annual report?
Yes, that is annual report,
okay.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Thomas. Mr. Stavros Michael, from page 18 on the infrastructure group. One of the real busy areas. Are there anything you would like to highlight? Welcome, Mr. Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Morning, councillors. First of all, my apologies. It seems that some kind of virus is affecting my voice, so I'll try to be brief. Can I suggest that I'll take the report as read. My report is read, and more than happy to take any questions arising from this report. I would like, with your tolerance, Mr. Chair, to take in a few minutes to bring the elected members' attention to 2-3 areas of procurement which are currently underway, and although every one of these procurement programs will come to this council for consideration and recommendation and final approval, I think there are quite significant activities in terms of both in principle for our future service delivery prospects, and B, because of how they potentially can contribute to our future financial sustainability as an organization. What we have on the go at the moment is that over the next couple of weeks we will have the results of our RFP for our parking services. Again, that's an activity that requests from the industry to provide offers along the lines of bringing and funding new equipment and new procedures without the council having to fund the capital costs for that. We expect to have a preferred recommendation by the end of August, early September, and we'll come back to this council for a recommendation with that. The second area of significant procurement activity is in the area of street lighting. Again, from previous communications, you'll be aware that this city's got districts got about 5,500 street lights. We renew about 1% of them per year, and we are way behind in terms of converting our street lights into LED. The net result of that is that we're not able to take advantage of significant energy efficiencies, energy savings for that. So we are progressing with a supplier on and finalizing an agreement whereby a supplier will undertake the performance specified maintenance contract for the street lights, with the intention that over 5 years all our street lights will be converted into LED lights, which the expectation that we'll achieve at least 50% of energy savings compared to current. And the overall annual fee for this works, including our renewals, when compared to a current operational and capital expenditure, it will be either the same or less than we currently spend. So again, I will come back to you, with some recommendations over the next few weeks, a couple of months, and brief you onto that. Another significant and very major undertaking we commenced in August is a future option for the management of wastewater services. As you're aware, over the next 1 to 5 years, we will have in our inventory a new wastewater treatment plant in the city worth about $40 million. We will have built, subject to the resource concerns for our Rotorua approval over the next few weeks, another facility and reticulation system worth $35 million, and the potential for the Tarawera reticulation and wastewater treatment to be online to another $20 million. Combinedly, all these projects create for us something somewhere in the region of a 30% increase in the value of our assets in waste water, with all the consequent effects of operational costs, renewal, depreciation, and the skills to manage them. We will start very soon a process where we are inviting the industry, specialist industry, to express an interest as to whether they're interested to fund those upgrades, the future maintenance, the operational components of the plant, the renewal, with a view of partnering both with the industry and with the council to avoid having to incur all these significant capital costs. You will find that you will know that this council is facing who have ahead of us in terms of spatial growth and future demands. We've got a debt limitation. We have a capital challenge. Of course, we also, our infrastructure is getting to a stage where we get into that middle age phase, which means the renewal and maintenance components are increasing. And we want to explore the possibilities of achieving some alternative procurement procedures where we'll assure us a number of key objectives, and some of them are an ability to access alternative funding sources instead of the council borrowing the money and adding it to this debt, to achieve more cost-effective and efficient delivery systems. We historically, not just alone, but other councils to run basic maintenance and operational services, either with our in-house resources or through a combination of dispersed contracts. To make sure that this council has got full control of the outcomes, the strategic intention, environmental and cultural outputs we want to achieve through these processes, and of course to provide opportunities of innovation, to make sure that our workforce is resilient. We have a middle-sized city, and attracting highly skilled and competent people to run highly sophisticated systems is not always easy. We also want to ensure that we have a resilient network to cope with normal operations and emergency works. And also, in reflecting our unique relationship with EOE, to ensure that iwi has an opportunity to invest into public infrastructure, both from a perspective of capital investment, but also from a perspective of partnering with us in transferring skills and knowledge and technology into into iwi. So this process will start over the next few weeks. As I said, this is just giving you a heads up. I'll give you, just draw your attention to these procurement processes, and I fully intend to come back to you in due course as we meet certain milestones to give you updates and progress on these areas. But they are significant, I suppose, significant challenges and significant opportunities for our procurement of services, and I think it's quite important for us to explore them and give Council an opportunity to consider the options and express a view about it. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, would you like to give us an update on what's happening with Nongataha Roundabout, please, Mr. Michael? I always know the answer to any question I ask.
Nongataha Roundabout and the Nongataha corridor itself, it's subject to our 3 corridors, studies, western, central, and eastern. Mr. Chair, I know you have, you have it in your heart, but what is happening at the moment that NZTA is commissioning a detailed design study in September and October of this year, for the asking us to answer the question, what can be done at the roundabout to reduce the queuing of traffic into Rongotaha village, which sometimes extends up to 1 kilometer towards the Stodogawa 36, with a potentially creating a lay-by road that it will not be obstructed by the roundabout. So the outcome of the study will form an action plan to be implemented in 18-19 year. So on the way.
Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And also the other thing, politics aside, Stavros doing a fantastic job. The camera at the roundabout, boy, it's high-tech stuff for them to get a real handle on what's happening at that location. Not only with the traffic going to and from Nongataha, but coming up State Highway 5. And also, can we use the information on that to find our rubbish dumpers who head north, not south?
The camera installed there, its express intention is to monitor traffic behavior and to help the study. No, the answer, we cannot use that information to monitor illegal dumping, because under the Privacy Act, we need to be expressly identifying the purpose of CCTV camera. But again, there's nothing stopping us asking NZTA if we could share some of the information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Thank you for your report, Stavros. On a heads-down rather than a heads-up basis, who's actually responsible for removing a mangled lamppost that's in a culvert out at Owhata and has been there for at least the last 2 or 3 months, from my recollection? Is it us, or should it... well, it's actually Tenai Road itself, but it's actually someone's obviously bowled a lamppost, but it's been sat in the culvert with a road cone alongside it for at least the last 2 or 3 months.
Councillor Kent, the answer, and again, it is what you call the network operator, no contract, with NZTA and Higgins, but I wasn't aware of it. I'll bring it to attention and follow it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Stavros, for your presentation and also the further updates that weren't included in your report. I'm delighted that we'll now be seeing our street lights convert to LED, which could bring us 50% savings. But there was another thing that you mentioned about partnering with industry and council to save costs, and that you will bring it up in the next meeting, and I understand that. But I'm just wondering, in terms of the procurement process, if you could give us a heads up, is that actually looking at it from a regional approach or just within Rotorua? Because I understand some of our services are already going into Tauranga, and I think that would be quite an interesting debate in itself on whether we're sticking to just Rotorua or going regional.
While we are working with the Bay of Plenty regional, TLAs to undertake, so-called regional efficiency, programs, as such as procurement. to be fair, I think we are progressing our own, district, and where we will be piggybacking onto the purchase of the LED lights themselves. There is a movement, and I think Auckland, for example, they're buying a few million or so, of these, LED lights. And NZTA is very supportive and actually encouraging TLAs to piggyback onto that sort of large procurement program. However, that is distinct from the putting the lights on and operating and maintaining them in the future. So the procurement I'm talking about is about the way we maintain, operate, renewing our current street lights, which with the current process will take us years and years to convert to LED. So we will take the best outcome from the Auckland and the regional LED purchasing lighting, but we'll move ahead with our own, PSMC type of contract, And if we need to sort of connect into a regional contract later on, so be it. But sometimes these sort of things, require someone to take the first step and move on with it, and that's what we are doing.
Question is Councillor Tapsell, but that's a great move. We've been wondering when we get there, because we've been lobbied as councillors for about 4 years on moving to LED lighting for efficiency and effectiveness, so that's fantastic.
Thank you, Chairperson. Through you, just a question for Stavros. At Salva Point, the windy road, there's a lot of people that go walking, especially the older people that go leisurely walking. They're concerned about the safety because the road's too narrow and safety is an issue for them there. So is there any improvement going to be made around there?
Well, Councillor Kumar, the entire lakefront from Salva Point all the way to the to Ohinamutu, it's an area under review at the moment, and especially with walkways and cycling ways, and I fully anticipate that review will encompass improved safety lighting and better sort of safety principles. So that it's part and parcel of the lakefront improvement project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Stavros, really exciting to hear about the seeking expressions of interest regarding partnering with private industry on and with iwi on wastewater. Particularly as I was cold called by the media to respond to the Auditor General's view that nationally we're not spending enough as in local government on core infrastructure. So, it's great to see that we recognise the investment that needs to be made given our predicted future growth. Will it just be wastewater, or will it also include potable water? Because we need to clearly include additional reticulation, certainly east side and up around the Caldera Rim with growth across Pukehangi Way.
Deputy Mayor, you're quite right. I think some of the significant challenges ahead of us is it is the potential growth for our districts, and with growth comes the need to enhance our infrastructure to supply, to accommodate that growth. At this point in time, we started with wastewater, but there's no reason at all. Seeing the interest from the industry, from the sector, and seeing the interest locally we may have in investing into public infrastructure, why we should not extend the same principle into potable water. So we need to start and move from there. Thank you.
Well, we totally opposed to either of it. Foreign ownership of our infrastructure, because that's where it's heading. Councillor Donaldson? Oh, Councillor Gould. Oh, yes.
Page 20 of your report, stormwater high level at Lake Okereke. Yesterday, the Bay of Plenty Regional Council had a meeting in Rotorua, and the high level of water of Lake Okereke was, a report was given to the councillors there. Is there something we can do to help that particular community in reducing that water level? Because we are expecting some heavy storms coming through, which is even going to make the problem even worse than what it is now.
Councillor Gould, the Regional Council has reported recently, and of course we are in touch with them constantly. The fact that from March, April, and May this year, the amount of rainfall exceeded 350% the average rainfall we had in the past. What that means is that the groundwater levels are very high, the ground is very saturated, and every time we have rain, there is no opportunity for the ground to soak water and just run straight into the lake. I understand the level of Lake Okareka water level is the highest since 1960s, that's what I understand. We have been working with the Regional Council to help them install a secondary parallel pipe to drain Okareka and double the amount of water escaping Okareka to Tarawera, and from Tarawera down to the receiving downstream environment. So the things we can do, we have done. Beyond that, there's nothing much you can do about reducing the groundwater level or the saturation of ground, and we just have to keep an eye just to see if there's any impact onto adjoining properties and the hazardscape that surrounds it.
June, July, sorry? Oh, God, I've jumped the gun again. Oh, that's right, I flipped the paper. Sorry, Henry. Operations Group report on page 21. God, didn't want to cut you out, mate, sorry. Councillor Kumar?
How are we doing for time with our 1 o'clock workshop coming up?
Oh, I just think we'll continue. It's a workshop, it's not a public meeting, so carry on, Henry. Thank you. Anything you'd like to highlight, Henry?
Look, I will be brief, and I'll again take it as read. And I do have Stuart and Rob both here who can answer any questions. Rob can touch on a couple of follow-ups from the Lions tour, which are of interest. And I guess one of the things I would like to highlight, which Stuart can grab from me, is some of the results from the museum, the year-end results from the museum, which I think are really worth highlighting. And just quickly, Councillor Kent, the one of my managers I am missing, unfortunately, is in bed, Jason Ward, around the building consents. But look, I do take your point on the building consents. There was actually a quirky result back in June 2016 where there was a massive spike then, which distorted the figures, but fundamentally the point remains the same. I think the thing that's really exciting is the interest we're getting at the moment in terms of subdivisions and the number of lots that have been approved, and the consented lots from last year are somewhere close to 5 times the amount of the previous year, and already this month a massive amount of interest coming through, and a significant number of new consented lots. So I think there's good reason to be pretty positive about what's happening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it was just a quick question on page 25 about the Aquatic Centre. I note that there's been resignations of senior managers, indicating more than one. Just wanting, just for, just checking, was there any extraordinary reason why they have resigned, or are they just moving on to elsewhere? I just want to be assured that there's no issues currently happening in the Aquatic Centre.
No, both of those, and one was the Aquatic Centre manager and one was the swim school manager, have left for their own reasons in terms of moving on to other opportunities. We did touch in the confidential part of the meeting last month that we are exploring different management options for the Aquatic Centre, and we have talked to staff about that as well, so just looking at a process for whether we can do better. And I think the one bit of or the additional bit of good news out of the Aquatic Centre is the fairly extensive work that's been done to the inside pool, 25 metre pool, and that's been completed ahead of time, a week or so ahead of time, and is reopened.
Henry, even though you've lost your manager and another senior person, you've got a pretty experienced team down there that can keep things battling on or working very efficiently until the review of public-private or partnerships or other options for the aquatic centre are looked at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone else got any questions? International Stadium? Councillor Kumar, myself, went to the official launch of the steamer, Bay Plenty Steamers, the other night. We were well received, and we've got, just to excite you more, we've got 3 home games here, and I've certainly been putting it out, and I hope our comms people will, both Raj and I, and I'm sure Her Worship the Mayor will be encouraging Rotorua and Bay of Plenty people to come to the games, because we want them back here permanently. We don't want to go through another period of time where there's only 1 or 2 games here. 3 is quite a significant commitment by the Bay Union and their sponsors. We met a lot of their sponsors, didn't we, Raj? Very enthusiastic, and boy, you wait till the team's announced. It's embargoed until the 8th of August, I think it is, and we met some players there that are just going to blow people's socks off, eh, Raj? What do you reckon? Yeah. Okay, Mr. Waru.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question again. Yes, it's about the Māori All Blacks and Lions game again, but I'm just wondering, because just reading through there, were there any particular learnings you took from that event, just for future reference?
Rob.
Kia ora, Council, and through you, the Chair. Yes, I mean it was a major event. 28,500 people. We only get one of those, unfortunately, every 12 years. So there were some key learnings really around just dealing with crowds of that size, and how we manage them pre and post event, and also then how we support them further through the city in terms of activating the greater part of the city, and making sure that the value that that number of people can add to the city is appreciated as best we can.
Sure.
Could I, it's not this report, but the attachment, could I just give an update after the Local Government New Zealand conference about the our UN Compact City that we're all part of the sustainability journey, and it's on page 28 in your report. In our report, Local Government New Zealand is very interested in hosting the UN office in Australia to Wellington to learn about this model, so that we apply more consistent approaches throughout New Zealand, and that's becoming particularly important with our resolution about climate change as a key new strategy moving into. So that's good kudos for Rotorua, that we've been seen as doing something that is meaningful, can be measured and backed up with research. And I don't know if we'll get there, but there will be discussion about whether it goes through the rural and provincial and metro sectors of New Zealand, about having a more consistent approach to sustainability and the UN Compact City. So I think it's great that we've been noted, at least, of having a consistent approach.
That the operational report for June, July 2017 been received. It's been moved. Councillor Gould and Mr. Waru. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Yep. We have 2 confidential reports to be discussed. It's been moved to worship. Seconded, Councillor Donaldson. The confidential item from the operational report, the reason for going into public enable our local authority holding the information to carry on without prejudice or disadvantage negotiations, including commercial and industrial negotiations, and the ERP update is to protect the information we're making available of the information will be likely unreasonably to prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied or who is the subject of the information. I've got a mover and a seconder. We'll just wait for Thank you very much. I will see you tomorrow if we thank you.